now. We're in my house here in Cookville. We're just trying to get the audio and whatnot good, but all is well here. Happy to be on the show tonight and excited to talk some NFL football and the draft with you guys this evening.
If there's one thing that Zach loves to do, it's break the fourth wall within the first minute of the show. And yes, he has in fact gotten his own place. I'm sitting at his place right now, and it's very nice if you see the video-only version. If you just receive the audio-only version, then just know that I'm at his place, and it's probably going to be that way because, it's nice to live 10 minutes away from somebody that you know. So that's Zach Thomas here with us, and we're also privileged to be joined who's going to be picking third tonight. More on that in a little bit. It's someone that I've been privileged to share multiple draft shows with in the past. My fellow Carolina Panthers fan and my fellow Washington Commanders fan who had a time of his life last season, I'm sure. It's the one, the only Scout Hughes. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. And once again, Scout Hughes, pleasure to be on the podcast. I'm with WIZS Radio in Henderson. And we should, I think it'd be good if we all went back and said who we're affiliated with, after the fact. But, man, it's great. I'm excited. I'm excited for today. It's going to be fantastic. Excited for the draft this week.
I know, it's exciting. And if the last few years, of course, we did our show in 2022. We did our show in 2023. We did a mock draft in 2024 on the Thomas Takes, all of which you can listen to right now. It's on Spotify. Thomas Takes from last year has the mock draft that we did. And then, of course, if you go to WQLU The Light, I hope I got that four-letter word correctly. It still has the 2023 and 2022 draft shows on there. So if you want to listen to, I believe it's close to 12 hours worth of us talking about the NFL drafts over the past few years, then, hey, you're more than welcome to do that, but you'll be more than happy to hear not only Scout Hughes is here with us tonight, not only Zach Thomas is here with us. Of course, you get to hear my banter from time to time, but you also get to hear from the man that made those drafts possible, your fellow residential Dallas Cowboys fan who has also gone through a change in his life. More on that. I'm sure he'll give that to you. It's the one, the only TJ Wilkerson.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me on tonight, Joey. I'm currently with Virginia Talk Radio Network Sports, and I am PA announcing starting tomorrow at the Lynchburg Hillcat. So I'm excited.
Awesome, man.
Well, you should be, man. It's an exciting change in your life for sure. And as somebody that's been part of the Lynchburg Hillcats for a few months, I can tell you that's a lot of fun, and you're going to love it over there in High A. So it's going to be fantastic. Cleveland Guardians affiliate. So that'll be an exciting time for you starting tomorrow for sure. So anyway, let's get on with this draft. So here's what we're going to do. We have 32 picks. It's not 31 like a couple years ago. Every team has a pick this year, so it's not like people have traded their first-round picks already. It's one pick per team. So we have spun a wheel, as I'm kind of famous for. And here's the order that we're going to be doing this in. So picking, and this is going to be every 4 picks, so it's not going to be a snake order. It's not going to be any of that. It's just going to be round robin. In picks 1, 5, 9, every 4th pick from there, Zach's going to have those picks. These are assigned at random, except for TJ's, which he's going to have 4, 8, 12, all the way to 32. I'm going to have picks 2, 6, 10, 14, 18, 22, 26, and 30. And Scout will do 3, 7, 11, 15, 23, 19, I almost forgot to say, as well as 27 and 31. If you do not know who has those picks, don't worry. We'll fill them in for you, and we will be talking about those picks and talking about each team's offseason as we go along. And I guess we just go ahead and get started because it's a lot of fun. If you want to play along at home, we're going to be doing an NFL mock draft simulator throughout the course of this podcast. I will be posting this at the end. The guys can, I'm sure it's up to them whether or not they want to publish this or not and see the chaos that will be this first round. But it will be on my Twitter. That's Joey Palermo 95. So if you want to tune into that and, hear that accordingly, you're more than welcome to. Draft is just less than 3 days away. It's hard to believe, but I believe it's 3 days from now, actually. I think the draft starts at 8 o'clock Eastern, so that'd be 7 o'clock Central. We're recording this at about 6:15 Monday afternoon / evening Central time. So give or take about 3 days. But anyway, let's stop with the preamble and go ahead with the first pick in the draft. And it's a pick that the first guy is going to be a little bit familiar with because the first pick belongs to the Tennessee Titans and the first pick belongs to the new Tennessean, Zach Thomas.
Yes, the Tennessee Titans. What a team they are. Look at their offseason. It's been interesting. They've added a couple of quarterbacks, Brandon Allen, Tim Boyle. They've also brought in Van Jefferson. They brought in some help on the offensive line. They also have a new kicker in Joey Sly. But then there's the departures. A lot of big-name contributors for Tennessee, if you want to call them that. Harold Landry among them went to New England. I'm going to try his name. Chibode Awuzie is also no longer a member of the team. Nick Westbrook-Akine signed with Miami. Mason Rudolph is back in Pittsburgh. Quandre Diggs contributed some in the secondary, and Jerome Baker, for the Titans has also departed in the offseason. So there's a lot of needs for this Tennessee Titans team, and I think what they need is an identity. They need some star power. Now, conventional wisdom tells you in a draft like this one, quarterbacks maybe aren't the strongest point of this draft. You hear about Cam Ward, you hear about Shedeur Sanders, but you don't think those guys are the flashy big name prospects of years past. But on a team like Tennessee, you've got to have a quarterback. You have to have identity on offense. And that is the reason I think the Titans will select Cam Ward from Miami first overall.
Woo! Shouldn't come as really a surprise to a lot of people. I think for the past few years, the number one pick has been one that really hasn't been in doubt. I think ironically, since Bryce Young got drafted, I think we've seen, for the most part, 100% guarantee. Caleb Williams last year, I think a lot of people expected him to go number one. But, I mean, this year it really doesn't feel like there's much of a debate for the Titans. I mean, Cam Ward even hinted at it in his recent streams that I believe he called Calvin Ridley on the Mount Rushmore of receivers all time. So make it that what you will.
Receiver of all time.
So, hey, make it that what you will. He's maybe the only good receiver they've got right now. But all that to say, it's a number one overall pick that I'm sure will not surprise anybody. But I think more interesting for the Titans is where do they go with the guy who ended last season as their quarterback and kind of got benched towards the end of the year? Where do you think the guys go? Where do you think the Titans go with Will Levis from here?
I think Jim Watt, right? I mean, personally, I don't hate Will Levis. He's growing me a little because he has a lot of the arm talent and the stuff you want in an NFL quarterback, but he simply is not a winner. And that's the concern that Tennessee has. They've not had a winner at quarterback in what feels like a long time since Ryan Tannehill was here, and the kind of the revolving door it's been since he departed a couple of years ago has been really sad for Titan fans to see, I would think. So Levis, I'd imagine, has to go. They might give him a chance to compete to be the starter or the backup entering this season, but I don't think he'll last longer than a year unless things turn for the better for Will Levis.
I can tell you Jim Wyatt from TennesseeTitans.com told me that Will Levis will more than likely be trade value than be on the team coming up next year.
So it's interesting you mentioned that, TJ. So, is he a guy to watch in maybe draft day 2, day 3? Is he a post-draft trade candidate? If he does get traded, when do you think that happens?
If he doesn't get traded in the draft, it'll definitely be around the time preseason starts, I think. I think they're going to give him a chance to compete if they can't get any draft value. I think they maybe get a 4th, 5th round pick out of him at best, but Jim, from what I've been told, that the Titans do not plan on moving forward with Will Levis 100%. And if they do, Cam Ward, it's only because they're not 100% confident on what they see with Cam Ward.
Absolutely. And I think any doubts that they have, I think people have thrown a few names out there, but I think we can agree for the most part that the Titans, if they don't select Cam Ward at number 1, it will be very, very surprising.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No.
If anybody has anything else they want to say, then we'll go ahead and move on to my first pick, the number 2 overall pick, a pick that I just enjoy with every fiber of my being, the Cleveland Browns, who bring much joy and pleasure to the football world. So they've been interesting. Picks that you didn't really expect them to do in the offseason. You didn't expect them to trade for Kenny Pickett, but here they are. Currently, is he their starter right now? If it's not him, it's Joe Flacco, who they signed in the offseason. Deshaun Watson is also certainly still a quarterback on a football team, but he tore his Achilles, and he's probably not going to be playing for them this season. But it's been more than just quarterback for them. We talked about Jerome Baker. They got him as well. Devin Bush, remember him? They signed him to a quick deal. I think the big thing for them this season is the extension of Myles Garrett. A lot of people did not expect Myles Garrett to be a Cleveland Brown this season, But not only did they prove everybody wrong, they paid him money. They paid him $30 million a season, actually over $30 million a season. So interesting to see how they, I guess, rebuild the defense around him, because this isn't the first rebuild Garrett's been a part of. Who they lost, they traded DTR in the Kenny Pickett trade. I mean, he never was really the answer at Cleveland, was he? Juan Thornhill is gone. He actually goes to a division rival. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Other quarterbacks they lost include Jameis Winston, Bailey Zappi. They lost Jedrick Wills Jr. at tackle. They lost Elijah Moore. They lost Nick Chubb as well, which, like, there's been no discussion around him. So you wonder if, like, his career's on the downturn. But all that to say, we're not talking about, like, free agents for the most part, at least right now. We're talking about the second pick in the draft, and the pick that I think is the first contentious one, because I have been on record stating since, I believe, the month of August to certain people in this chat that the Cleveland Browns and Shedeur Sanders are pretty much a match made in heaven. I also know that the Cleveland Browns have traded Kenny Pickett and they've signed Joe Flacco. They still have Deshaun. And, you know, you could argue what it is, but Cleveland Browns in the first round are not known for drafting very well. And this is kind of a trend that we'll see throughout the course of this first round. But I think that being said, the pick that I'm doing is the suggested one on the NFL Draft Mock database. If you're seeing it, then you'll know. But with the second pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns will select the dual threat from Colorado, the corner, the receiver, whatever you want to call him, Travis Hunter.
Ooh, Joey, you scared me, man. I literally thought you were going to say Shedeur Sanders. That was nice. That was a nice fake out.
I've been thinking about this for months. You know, every fiber of my being wants to see them. I will laugh. You will hear me from Virginia, from North Carolina, from the out west parts of Tennessee. I'll probably be there. I'll probably be there for that. I mean, Green Bay might be hearing my laughter if and when that pick does happen. But you know what? It's a pick that I think Cleveland could do, but I'm picking the sensible one. It fills two birds with one stone. It gives Denzel Ward a little bit of an extra corner boost, and it gives him a receiver because, I mean, they lost. I mean, Mark Cooper's not there anymore, so who really does Kenny Pickett / Flacco / whoever the frick have to throw it to? So I've got Travis Hunter here. I think it fills – and, I mean, it's the Colorado guy that Cleveland Browns fans, honestly, I think want to see get drafted because I think they're kind of tired of them drafting quarterbacks in the first round because it almost never pans out for them, ironically, except for Baker Mayfield.
Well, Joey, I'm going to pose a question to you and the rest of the room here, but I saw something today, maybe a bit of a rumor that there's some speculation that maybe the Browns could trade back into the first round and try to get Shedeur as well. What do you guys think about that as a possibility? And are the Browns dumb enough to do both of those things, draft Travis and Shedeur and not one or the other?
Yes, they are dumb enough to do a lot of things.
I've heard that that's a possibility, but I've also heard they would, if they get back into the first round and Shedeur's gone, they're going to draft a tackle or wait till number 33. One quarterback they have their eye on if Shedeur's not there is actually Tyler Show from Louisville, supposedly.
Oh, man. Tyler Show from Louisville, just the guy that's going to save Cleveland Brown. Honestly, that would be the most hilarious outcome if of all the quarterbacks that people expect the Cleveland Browns to take, that it ends up being the one they don't expect, and he's ironically their best quarterback. That's just kind of how it works, right?
Yeah. But I think it depends on what the Steelers do. If the it depends on if the Steelers trade up, if they feel like Shedeur goes. I think because right now I don't know if the Saints are going to draft a quarterback first round simply because the front office loves Spencer Rattler. They're ready to go with him as a starter. If they do draft Shedeur, it's for him to learn, not to start.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that being said, the Cleveland Browns selecting Travis Hunter, number 2 overall, at least in our fantasy draft so far. I'll leave it up to the floor if there's anything else you guys want to add before we head on number 3.
All right.
Actually, Zach, I have a comment.
No, go ahead, TJ. Go ahead.
Let's hear it.
I didn't get to say this at the beginning of the stream, bro, but I love the haircut, man. I just thought I'd go ahead and say that.
You got to describe it now because the audio only.
I'm about to say,
this
is audio here.
The audio stream, man.
Yeah, that's right. For those of you listening on Spotify and other audio platforms, not watching us on the video recording of this here show, I have my haircut the same as I always cut it, except it's a bit flatter because the haircut was maybe 3 weeks ago. So short on the sides, on the top. Not quite a mullet. I don't want to go through the awkward phases between regular haircut and mullet, although the mullet would be really cool. I also don't think that my current employers would appreciate me going with a mullet one day.
Mullet would be pretty cool.
Yeah, considering it's literally. Go ahead, Scout.
I was about to say, you know what they say about mullets? It's business in the front and party in the back.
Exactly.
Joey, you can't fire Zach if he gets a mullet. I refuse to let it happen.
I don't have that much power.
I was about to say,
that's a good thing.
No, it is ironic. Though. I should also point out it's his first day as of this recording, so that would be a little.
How did Joey treat you on your first day, Zach? Was he cruel?
He took a day off.
Oh, okay.
I needed to prep myself for the craziness that is Zach being at my job now. If there's anything I know from J98, it's that things can get a little bit hectic in the office. But no, it was actually a fun fact. I'm breaking the fourth wall again, but I was supposed to be off Good Friday, but I worked a baseball game, so this was my addendum Good Friday. So I'm off today, and I've got a few games which you can listen to on WLIV 101.9, AM 920. Sports Radio 104.7, and I think that's all the stations I have, so that'll be all the cheap plugs I have for the night. So, all right. Well, with us roasting Zach's hair out of the way, we'll go ahead and move on to the third pick.
I was complimenting it. Thank you.
I was about to say, I thought his
hair
was
I know. I pull y'all's leg.
My hair looks like a mess right now, bro. I
understand. My hair's a mess too. There's a reason I'm wearing a hat. Anyway, with the third pick in the draft, it's the New York Football Giants, and Scout Hughes is here to tell us who the Giants we believe will select.
So here's the thing about the New York Giants. I really like that they added Russell Wilson. I also really like that they added Jameis Winston, because I know this sounds like counterintuitive, but I thought the Cleveland Browns were the best 3-win team last year, and I kept saying that when they were from 3-7 to 3-11. Like I kept saying they're the best 3-win team, but mainly because of Jameis Winston. I just think highly of him. I think he's a good quarterback, good leader as well. But here's the deal. Long term here, if we're thinking long term here, Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston aren't going to be a New York Giant. They're not going to be Giants, in my opinion. Some after this year, some after a few years down the line. It's not going to happen. I feel and as opposed to waiting down the line. And sadly, that quarterback's already off the board. I think they would have, if New York would have drafted a quarterback, it would have been Cam Ward. But since Cam Ward's off the board, I don't have them taking Shedeur Sanders. I really think that the Giants are going to take, in my opinion, best available. And that's Abdul Carter from Penn State. I think he's a fantastic player. You look at his statistics, over 23 tackles for losses per game last year. Penn State, just a fantastic playoff team last year. He's one of the best defensive players in the nation last year. If I'm New York, I just don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be – I don't think he'll be as generational as Cam Ward will be. But if Cam Ward was there, I think the Giants would take him. But since he's not, it's Abdul Carter.
Is there any chance Cam Ward falls down to 3?
No, absolutely not. No.
Okay.
No, that's just wishful thinking if you're a Giants fan.
Okay.
He doesn't fall.
Just curious.
I just love him too much.
So – in Scout, do you believe that Cam Ward is a guy that the Giants could maybe trade up for?
So yes, I do think that. Think that, but I don't think Tennessee is going to budge on that at all. So
yeah. I think it would take a lot.
Yeah, it would take a lot. But yeah. With the third pick, it's Abdul Carter from Penn State.
The consensus top 3, I think, from a lot of people's perspectives. I believe in the mock draft simulator that we're doing this on, I believe this is the consensus top 3. I believe over 75% of drafts had these 3 picks. So makes a lot of sense. I think when we talked about the Browns, that being really the first contentious pick as far as like, are they going to get Travis Hunter? Are they going to get Shador? Are they going to get blah, blah, blah? Is this a pick where is it a bit more questionable as far as who the Giants could select? You mentioned a quarterback scout. You mentioned a couple other possibilities. Are there maybe other ways the Giants could go in this pick?
I don't think you can go wrong at all with offensive line. I mean, that's just my philosophy with every team.
Sure.
But I don't know. I feel like Abdul Carter, the best defensive player in this year's draft. But like I said, you're not going to go. You literally cannot go wrong with taking an offensive lineman.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And it'll be interesting to see how the Giants kind of get their heads in the draft, especially with the owner basically outright saying that everybody's jobs are on the line after this season, because I believe their contracts are up or they're just like this close, I guess, is the direct quote he used. But all that to say, it'll be interesting to see kind of the dynamic the Giants take in the draft. But speaking of linemen, this next team has been linked to a lineman for most of this draft. I'm not just talking about myself either. TJ, you've got the 4th pick. You've got my New England Patriots. Who the heck are you giving them?
Well, I feel like the Patriots, let me say this, the Patriots have addressed needs over the offseason. You needed veteran leadership on the wide receiver room. You got Matt Collins and Stephon Diggs. How long that lasts, we don't know, but you got them. You addressed a couple of pieces on defense. Harold Landry, Milton Williams, needed. Marcus Epps, not the greatest safety in the world, but not terrible either. Like you said, Joey, they've been linked to offensive line. They need to protect Drake May. And I just think the best lineman in this draft is obviously Will Campbell, who I think the Patriots will take. But I will say this, due to Will Campbell's arm size that people are worried about, don't be surprised if Armand from Missouri shocks the world and gets picked up by the Patriots at number 4.
Okay. I agree with you. I mean, there's a reason why Peter, what's his name, from Northwestern got selected as low as he did in Tennessee a couple years ago.
Peter
Skoronsky.
Yeah.
That guy's name. Skoronsky, there's a reason. Because his arms were short, right? Like, that was kind of the knock on him. His hands were a little bit short, I think was the problem.
Well,
and
I'll pose you guys this question, because I've heard this said before, too. At any point in the draft before the combine, did anybody talk about Will Campbell not being a lineman because his arms are like an inch shorter than everybody else's?
No, that wasn't a topic until the combine.
Exactly. And the same is true of Pierce Skoronsky and a lot of these other linemen that have the shorter arms. Like, it doesn't make a huge difference. You can play or you can't play. The tape will tell you a lot more than a measurement at a combine when you're basically in tights with a bunch of other guys who do the exact same thing as you. So I feel like a lot of the draft people and the scouts maybe take the combine measurements a little bit too seriously, especially in terms of a measurement like an arm length. Like, it doesn't make a huge difference. Now, if you have a guy that's, 6'7" with, a 9-foot wingspan, that guy's probably a pretty good lineman most of the time. But these guys like the Skoronskis of the world, or like we just mentioned, Campbell from LSU, shorter arms. So what? They can still play. We've clearly seen that in the college level, and I think that will translate to the NFL just fine.
Only allowed 2 sacks this year out of 900 plus snaps. I mean, that's the kind of guy you need. Now, can he play at the professional level is the question. He played in the SEC. SEC is going to have more than half of their players drafted in this draft.
Yeah, you're playing Sunday guys every week in the SEC.
Yeah. And I think the other point to make, too, is that Will Campbell can play mostly guard. I mean, with the size that he's in right now, he's a left guard, right guard, maybe even left tackle, right tackle. If you draft a Membu, he's a bit bigger, so he's a guy that you could see in the trenches, more of a center / guard / whatever down the line. Patriots need more of a guard, more of a tackle, that kind of thing. I've said it on record that they have 4 decent linemen and 1 traffic cone. You replace the traffic cone with Will Campbell, who I've been wanting the Patriots to draft for months now. Guess what? That completes an offensive line, and Drake May isn't getting thrown down every other play. That's all I can ask for. Go ahead.
I think Garrett Bradbury wasn't a bad pickup, in all honesty, as far as centers go.
Really wasn't. Now, with New England, there is a stigma that comes with first-round picks, and that is they trade a lot. Yeah. So what are the chances? Like, how much How likely is it that the Patriots are a trade down candidate night?
None.
You would,
My
you would have to offer
Okay.
a massive. Bill Belichick's not involved. Belichick had a say in a lot of that, by the way, as everyone knows. Belichick's not there. The Patriots are going to have to get a really good offer for them to trade down. It has to be a sweet offer.
My personal opinion, you just drafted your number one quarterback last year, and you need to protect him at all costs.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I mean, I'm with TJ. I mean, I'm more on the side of even if a good offer came, I probably still wouldn't take it. But man, if the offer was worth looking at, then sure, why not?
If the offer offered something real sweet, like let's say, okay, a young go lineman, or let's say a Trey Hendrickson. If you threw a Trey Hendrickson at me, if you had threw a Trey Hendrickson at me and some great draft capital, maybe I would consider it. You know, maybe the Bengals are so desperate to get up there for the 4th overall pick that they're throwing it out there. So that's the only way I would take it. But
I would look too for team in New Orleans, maybe as a team that could trade up because they're kind of in the quarterback crossroads. I know the front office likes obviously Spencer Rattler. They also just paid Derek Carr a lot of money for really no reason at all. But if they're not sold on their quarterback of the future, maybe they get rash and trade up and give New England an offer they can't resist. And if that's the case, then the Patriots, I don't think, would be too mad to slide down the 9, bag an extra pick, and see what they can do with that.
Yeah. There's a difference between trading down to 9 and trading down to 17. Like
agreed. You don't trade out of the top 10 for New England.
Well, chances are Derek Carr also will not be a Saint in the coming up season. If what has been put out there or what Ross told me has any truth to it, Derek Carr and the Saints will divorce by the time the season starts.
A Saints fan can only hope. But that will come later. I do believe that the Saints are a prime candidate to trade up in this draft. What they can offer or who they could offer might depend on the night. But anyway, New England Patriots, they just said it. It's on the record now. You just got them getting Will Campbell from LSU, which I appreciate. So we've each done a pick, and now it's time to go back around the circle again and do the 5th pick in the 2025 NFL draft. This is the first contentious pick, you can argue. Not to put words in your mouth, Zach, but Jacksonville's been linked to quite a few names.
Yes, Jacksonville has a lot of different guys that they could be linked to because of what they've lost this offseason. Ronald Darby at corner is a big loss. They've lost some guys on the offensive line, including Brandon Sheriff. Mac Jones went out the door. They're down a backup quarterback. And Trevor Lawrence has had the injury bug hit him as of late. Jonas Johnson is gone. Andre Sisco is gone. Christian Kirk is now a Houston Texan in the division. Make that what you will. But the point is the Jacksonville Jaguars have a lot of needs. They brought on De'Ami Brown. They brought on Jordan Lewis, 2 very competent players. And Nick Mullins is coming now to be the backup quarterback as far as we know. But there's still some problems on the defensive side of the ball. Jacksonville was very competitive last year, but I felt like they just weren't able to close out games. It seemed like they had a game within a possession or two, and then they'd allow another team to come down the field and get the go-ahead touchdown or go up by 2 scores in the final couple minutes of the game. They couldn't finish it. And then there was the beating they took. I believe was it Jacksonville got beat by the Lions by a bunch of points, and that was a lot of people. But
they got beat by a lot of teams by a lot of points.
But regardless of all of that, Jacksonville's got to have some help on the defensive line. They've drafted guys, they've invested in that front 7, but the defensive tackle spot is a big hole for them. And one of the names that they're linked to is Mason Graham, the defensive lineman from Michigan. And he is a big, athletic guy. His frame's not as muscular as you'd like it to be, but he's a very good defensive lineman. He can play inside, he can play outside. You put him up against a non-athletic guard or a center that really can't move that well, you're going to be in trouble. So I think that you're going to get Jacksonville drafting Mason Graham, the defensive lineman from Michigan, 5th overall.
A+ throughout the board for the NFL mock draft database through 5 picks. A lot of people have linked Jacksonville to not just Mason Graham, which is the de facto pick for NFL mock drafts, which is why I say we're 5 for 5 so far. But this is the first real talk. Now, New England's been linked to this player as well, so I'm not going to exclude them from this. But a lot of people have linked Jacksonville to Ashton Genty. Now, this is coming mainly off the fact that Etienne kind of sucked last year and Tank Bigsby kind of took his spot. And they also see Tank Bigsby as a power back. Guys, is it, like, besides Mason Graham, which I think is a great pick, is there enough, like, what other positions could you maybe see Jacksonville selecting with number 5?
I'll give you one position, and that is cornerback. because that's another. The secondary in Jacksonville has been a little questionable. Will Johnson, Jahdae Barron, two guys to look at as potential picks. Johnson from Michigan, Barron from Texas. Probably the top two corners in this year's draft that are not named Travis Hunter. They're both drafted to be mid-first round picks. So Jacksonville could potentially slide back and take one of those guys if they wanted to, or even at 5, if they felt comfortable with one of them, they felt the conviction to draft one of them. That's another pick they could make.
Yeah. If you want a sexy pick and you want a guy that can probably transform your offense and help save Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville, I'd say Tyler Warren. They could shock the world, draft Tyler Warren and use him in several different areas, even as a big old fullback. If they wanted
Evan Ingram did leave, by the way. Didn't mention him, but he went to Denver on a cheap deal. So tight end is a big gaping hole in this Jacksonville offense.
Yeah, it's an option for sure. It was one thing that is notable for Jacksonville is their Pro Bowl tight end, Evan Ingram, is no longer on the team. He's on another team. We'll get to it a little bit. But Mason Graham is the pick from Michigan, solves a defensive line need. And now we head on to an AFC West team, the first one of the draft. My 6th pick and second pick for myself will be the now Las Vegas Raiders, who, still trying to get used to not calling them even Los Angeles. They're the Vegas Raiders, and so it shall be. So this, in true Joey fashion, I spoiled this pick. So there is one player that the Raiders have been linked to, and only one player that they've been linked to. I don't believe the Raiders even ran for, as a team, and you'll have to quote me on this, but I don't even think they ran for 1,000 yards as a team last season. They are in desperate need. They just signed the not agile and not as far as he used to be quarterback Geno Smith. They traded for him in the offseason. I also know that their running back system is a very quickly aging Raheem Mostert. Alexander Madison is gone, and as is Amir Abdullah, who wasn't carrying for him. He was more of a third down back, but the point remains, their running game was atrocious last season. I think you know where I'm going with this, but with the 6th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Ashton Genty from Boise State.
Makes sense.
Makes sense, but I will also mention, too, a lot of people in the Deion Sanders camp want to see Shadur at that 6th overall pick if he's sitting there.
Why
I'm
would
just going to throw that on there for free.
I understand. Right. Vegas is a very big
remember,
town.
Geno's not.
You're not drafting Shador to be a backup. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you're not.
No.
Not long term, but short term, maybe.
But
I don't know.
At the same time, I think he needs at least 1 year under someone else.
Yeah, he's not ready, I don't think. I think he needs to sit under.
Well, who knows? I could be wrong. He may be ready right now. Yeah. But I just think, the traditional way of doing things, if you want to do it right, unless it's just flat out generational talent, they sit behind, a starter. And heck, even if they end up being generational talent, they still sit behind the starter.
Yeah, I don't think the Raiders would have gone out of their way and traded for Geno Smith. They're going to draft a quarterback this early.
And to be honest, with how old Geno looked last season, some of the throws he makes, who's to say he just doesn't get benched for poor play and Shador comes in mid-season anyway. But that's a hypothetical. That's a hypothetical. And we have him getting a running back in this scenario. Somebody to carry the load off of. Raheem Mostert, I guess. I guess he's their running back right now. I don't know. But here's a fun one for you. How about the offseason the New York Jets have had, huh, Scout?
So why is it that I get both New York teams? How does that even work?
Just the way the cookie crumbles, man. Sorry about
that. The wheel shows, Scout.
Sorry about that.
Listen. Okay, so I have this coworker at WIZS, and he is a New York fan. He'll root for his Giants, and he'll root for his Jets. And he moved down to North Carolina, and he'll root for the Panthers too. I know, right? But he's just. It's been a whirlwind of a late 2024 and an early 2025 for this man. And listen, I I like the addition of Justin Fields. I really do. Do I think he can start in the NFL? Sure, but for not that long. At the same time, I don't think quarterback is the problem. Well, maybe it was. Maybe
It's not the problem.
It's not the problem, but it was a problem. But if I'm the Jets, listen, they have a big need protecting their quarterback. I'm gonna take an offensive lineman, and you know how I am. I'm big on the offensive lineman. I think they're the foundation of the team.
Oh,
I really do.
Sure.
If the guy from LSU is already off the board, because honest to goodness, I'm not saying they're interchangeable, but that's how offensive linemen usually go sometimes. They can be interchangeable.
So, wait, who are they picking?
Ahmad Membu from Missouri.
Ooh. I could see that. That makes sense too.
So
controversial.
At 332 pounds, he ran a 4.9140. I think that's significant. I mean, he plays in the SEC.
Yeah.
He knows how, and he plays SEC ball, which translates really well to the NFL. I think that's a good pick for the Jets.
I agree with you on that one. And here's the thing about the Jets. If you make Aaron Rodgers look incompetent at quarterback, there's something wrong with your team. And the Jets last year had all the talent in the world in skill positions, but they could not protect the quarterback to save their lives. Aaron Rodgers is facing 5 guys in his face on a 3-man blitz. It seemed like every time he dropped back.
I mean, come
he
on.
Injured his Achilles, played for the season before last year. But when he was healthy, he was fine and well for the majority of the season. The problem was they couldn't protect him, and that's a lot why the Jets didn't win a lot of games. Also, their defense pretty much stunk for the back half of the season, but we don't talk about that.
Yeah, and Justin Fields is a guy that runs outside of the pocket. You want to be able to protect him. You've got to build up that O-line because you think Rodgers got killed. Justin Fields will get slaughtered if this offensive line doesn't beef up.
Fields is athletic enough to get out of a lot of trouble. I'm more worried about a pocket passer like a Tim Boyle back there. Or Zach Wilson wasn't. He was a Jet. I mean, when they were played in place of Rodgers in 2023, and that was just hard to watch. I actually went to one Jets game in Miami that December. Zach Wilson got pummeled. I think played 2 of the game by Bradley Chubb for a touchdown. He ended up getting hit so hard on play 1. He was concussed. Didn't realize till halftime. They throw Tim Boyle in there, and Tim Boyle goes out there and does absolutely nothing the rest of the game except get plastered and throw picks. And that Jets line is a liability, to say the least. And they have guys over there. And I think Membu is a good pick there. You get a big, agile, fast guy that can maybe deal with some of the speed the edge rush in the NFL have.
There is, I believe we're 8 for 8 because I believe Armand Membu is among the top in the database as well. This is very unusual. A lot of us would go different directions by now if this were maybe 2022 or 2023. But this is, for the most part, this is a very consensus pick.
Oh, gosh.
So, interesting. So, the 8th pick is Scouts Panthers, but he doesn't have the pick, unfortunately, Scout.
Can I just say this before TJ makes that pick?
Go for it.
Okay, so I just skimmed the off-season notes because I have my own set of notes, and I see on the notes here needs wide receiver, which I will endorse till the cows come home. But then everywhere on defense. Okay, you know what? Just
I saw that too. I was like, wait a minute, that's entirely wrong.
I was like, wait a minute.
I just want to point out these needs. I made the notes. I'm up to it. But
every other team has like their top 5 needs, and whatever. You just got Panthers wide receiver, everyone on defense. It's just like
listen.
But
that
here's
is
the deal.
what
Here's the deal.
ESPN said.
You're
legitimately.
Well, then ESPN's 1,000% right.
So ESPN, I'm not kidding, had this. These are their needs in this order. I remember seeing this: defensive tackle, defensive end, receiver, linebacker, safety. That is the entire defense. So I'm sorry, but when ESPN has that option, I'm just going to save myself time at 12:30 in the morning to make those notes. So I'm sure it doesn't look great when you first see it, Scout. But all that to say, TJ, are you going to take someone on the defensive side of the ball with this defense?
Absolutely. And if this guy is available, like he is in our draft, look, it's no doubt the Panthers have a lot of rebuilding on defense, and you're going to need a young captain type player. If this guy's available, take him. That's Jalen Walker out of Georgia. If he is available, I do not see a world where the Panthers miss out on this pick, unless they know something I don't, which they do, which they more than likely do.
It's almost like the Panthers are going to pull a play out of the Eagles draft handbook. Draft every defensive player from Georgia and then win the Super Bowl.
It's almost like people should have done that last year.
This is the beginning.
The Packers have tried. They haven't had success at it, though.
Wait, so what's crazy is, okay, we don't have a trade yet in our draft, but you know what's crazy? This is like the latest that there's not been a trade in the first round pre-draft since Joe Montana got traded, 5 days prior? And we're 3 days away from the NFL draft.
And
that's
honestly,
a crazy statistic now that I think about
everybody's
it.
content.
Honestly, I don't think there's going to be many. I really don't.
I don't think there's going to be a pre-draft trade. If there is,
all the nerves are going to set in when draft time comes, and chaos is going to pursue then, right there.
I was also going to say, I think you could see a trade as early as like number 3 this year. I don't know.
You could. I mean, I could see the Giants trading down. I could. Missing out on Abdul Carter and giving someone else a shot? Absolutely. Who's to say the Panthers won't give them a pretty penny? Who could you give, in all honesty? Okay, maybe I give – all right, I'll offer – no, Adam Thielen's not worth a first-round pick, but maybe I'll throw in –
Shaq Thompson. Oh, wait.
You can't throw in Shaq Thompson. You're right.
Oops, sorry about that.
I was so upset about that.
Oh, do they still have Derek Brown? The nose tackle?
Yeah, I think so.
No, he's still there. He's still there.
And he's trade value.
He is good trade value. But you never know, man. But, I mean,
I don't think Carolina's moving.
No. I've heard rumors Carolina could trade down, but from what I've heard, if Jalen Walker is available, they're going to take him. If not,
that's a good pick. I like that pick.
Also, just want to take this time while we're talking about the Panthers to recognize that, can we agree that if it wasn't for the last 3 games of the regular season, the Panthers might be linked to a quarterback here, but I think Bryce Young saved his job with that last few games.
I get my
Go ahead, Zach.
I think as far back as maybe the Denver game, he started off like he was himself again. And then by the time they played Kansas City and almost beat him, and they played Philly and almost beat him. Bryce Young is another reason they lost those games. The Cowboys game wasn't good on his part. But outside of that, I mean, I thought Bryce had a relatively good back half of the season when he was in there. But they've got to get help on the receiving end for sure. I mean, Thielen's good, but he's old. Outside of him, what else do they really have? And then defensively, it's kind of like you mentioned, you can score 20 points. You're not going to win a whole lot of games allowing 30. And the Panthers have a lot of holes in the defensive side. Yeah, they paid J.C. Horn a lot of money. And Derek Brown is still there. But outside of those two guys, I don't think there's a whole lot to really be too happy on the defensive side of the ball. So Carolina either has to fortify that defense or really just hope their offense can put up 50 points a game.
Well, Dave Canales has done a great job with what he's been given, in all honesty. The way he developed Bryce Young. Now, I'm not going to freak out just yet because Bryce could easily go back to last season, weeks 1 through 4, Bryce, easily. But the development we have seen with Bryce under Dave Canales and what he's really been striving for this team, he's gotten rid of a lot of baggage, so to say. Maybe we don't agree with getting rid of Shaq Thompson, but at the same time, there's a lot of baggage getting thrown out. And this team, it's going to take a couple years to rebuild. We're not going to see progress right away. Expect another 4, 5, 6 win season, but it's getting there. But there's a lot of damage to fix. It's like a F5 tornado hitting your hometown. That's what the Carolina Panthers are. A wrecked town.
Wow.
I mean,
wow.
Well, they can start.
There's a comparison.
They can start the rebuilding process with their new running back, Rico Dowdle. So we'll see how well
I mean,
that
Rico's
goes.
not a bad running back. I wish we had him back at Dallas. I do.
But I'll say this before we move on. Also, let's not forget, and I agree with Zach. I would even go, before halfway of the season as far as how Bryce has been this past season. But I wouldn't even say it's Dave Canales. Well, I'm sorry, I wouldn't say it's just Dave Canales. I'd say it's also Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton has really, really helped Bryce. So.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is what Aaron Rodgers could do if he took a back seat. He could train people and be better, but no.
And still get paid.
Want to do that. And still get paid. You can't.
And they also brought back Andy Dalton as well for another couple years. So he'll continue that rebuilding process with Bryce Young as well. So Carolina in this occasion, drafting defense, going with the Georgia linemen. And now we got to talk about my Saints, and certainly had one of the off seasons of all time. Zach Thomas, you have this pick, and I don't feel sorry that I don't have it.
Oh, I'm going to give you every brutal detail what the Saints have done this offseason. Departures.
Nope, I don't want to hear it.
I mean, I wouldn't think that these guys are huge losses. I mean, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, make what you will of that guy. MVS give MVS take it away. And he has a game where he has 3 touchdowns and does nothing else, or he has 15 drops. So MVS leaving the building, maybe not the worst thing ever. Peyton Turner, he exists. He's gone. Paulson Adebo, high draft pick, also out the door. Didn't really produce. He was injured quite a bit. They wouldn't get that great of a start to his career, so you hate to see it for him. But, high draft pick like that, leaving your building, not something the front office really loves to see. And then Jamal Williams also has gone. But Jamal Williams, of course, kind of the backseat man to Alvin Kamara, so long as he is healthy and not in jail. With that, who'd they bring in? Brandon Cooks is back for his second stint. He's been all over the place. He's seen a lot of football. He's played a lot of football. He's been pretty good everywhere he stopped at. Justin Reed has some good ball left in him as well. Maybe had his best years in Kansas City, but not a bad piece to have, just a bit older. And Will Clapp also has come in for the offensive line, guard, center, interior lineman type of player, has made it in. There's a little Derek Carr situation. They paid him $40 million in guaranteed money, which I think a lot of people look at that and shake their heads and say, why in the world did you do that? It was the dumbest thing you could have done, especially because here's a chance you just move on and go with the likes of Spencer Rattler, or maybe a draft a quarterback.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I don't know. But and Carr's also, chances are not going to even play this year. The shoulder stuff getting reaggravated. So we'll see what happens with that whole situation with Derek Carr. That being said, a few different directions the Saints can go with this pick. They could go BPA. Tyler Warren is still on the board. I think he is the best player left on this draft board as of right now. Tevin Millen is also still there from Arizona. There's some guys on the edge rusher department. Mikael Williams is there from Georgia. From corner, Will Johnson is still sitting there as well. Shedeur Sanders, of course, still on our draft board as it stands right now. If I'm the Saints, I would not think about drafting Shedeur Sanders because you have too much money allocated to a quarterback that's not going to be there long term. You have another quarterback that you've been developing for a year or so that could potentially be the guy the front office likes. I don't think you muddy that water any more than you have to, especially not with this year's draft class. However, defensively, the Saints kind of have the same problem a lot of teams in the NFC South have, and that is they don't know how to play defense. And I think that if there's a corner available that is good, that they're convicted by, they will take him. Will Johnson's part of national championship defense in Michigan. I think this pick is a no-brainer. Will Johnson goes number 12 or goes number 9 overall.
I love this.
Okay.
God, Zach, I love this.
That's a really good pick.
What you've done with that pick is the quietest draft night pick that the Saints could possibly have.
It's a safe pick. It's the right pick, in my opinion, especially if the board is the way it looks right now.
And you know what? I'm not going to complain.
Look, Brandon Staley's going to transform this defense. He's a terrible head coach, but a beautiful defensive mind. I'm telling you, he's going to bring speed back to the Saints defense like it once was when they were hurting quarterbacks in the playoffs, like Brett Favre. I'm telling you, without the scandal, this is a type of Saints defense you want to see. Will Johnson is a perfect pick. Zach, you are a genius. I love this pick.
There's a lot of different picks that a lot of people have said about the Saints. I've seen them trade up. I've seen them trade down. I've seen them go for a quarterback. I've seen them get a lineman. I've seen them get McMillan from Arizona. I've seen them get a defensive lineman from Georgia and Jalen Walker, who was just picked. So anything the Saints could do would not surprise me. I had them getting a crazy trade and drafting up to number 3 to get Shedeur because I think the Saints are that stupid. But anyway, I think Will Johnson is a great pick for the New Orleans Saints. He is not only fitting for this corner, because let's be honest, their two best players on defense are also their two oldest players in Cam Jordan and Tyrann Mathieu. I also know that Will Johnson was part of a national championship defense, as was so pointed out, and he's the best corner available. He's arguably the best defensive player available, and he's the Marshawn Lattimore replacement, and to an extent, the Paulson Adebo replacement. I can't ask for anything more from a Saints fan. Well, that went off painless. So honestly, that was probably the shortest pick that we've done, and I honestly thought we'd talk about that for like 20 minutes. So the Saints are done. They got Will Johnson, and now I got to talk about no one that, again, another pick that I'm sure a lot of people in this quartet, if you will, have more of a passion about or dislike than myself. But I have to deal with the pick that is the Chicago Bears.
Hey, Joey, before we make your pick, can we all just take a second to laugh at the Bears?
Oh,
The team stinks. Okay, continue.
Point and laugh at the Bears.
Oh, come on, man.
Look at it. No. So the Bears offseason has actually not been terrible. They traded for Joe Thuney, which Kansas City fans is the Bears' problem. Grady Jarrett's there. I still think Grady Jarrett has a little bit to offer at defensive tackle. Added a couple pieces at receiver, traded for Jonah Jackson. Yeah, they lost Keenan Allen. He's still free agent right now if they want to pick him up. Gerald Everett's still another guy that's gone. So I think the immediate gravitation towards the Bears is tight end, but then you realize Cole Kmet exists and they just extended him. This is, I think, the first pick that I think could be a little bit contentious because D-tackle's been selected, so I don't really want to go with that. Ashton Genty's off the board. I'm sure would have been a great fit for Bears fans because they're trying to rebuild that. I know DeAndre Swift's there still, but, it giveth and taketh away. So my options are another Georgia edge, which would make sense given, boosting that defensive line. Or do I go offensive tackle because, I'm the Bears. I'm looking at it from an ownership perspective. I've seen a couple offensive tackles go off the board, but honestly, I think it kind of works out for the Bears because you could also get the freak that is Satoria McMillan from Arizona, and I think that could work out for them. But I'm going to be sensible here, and I'm going to realize that Caleb Williams got sacked way too much in the pocket last season. So kind of need some more protection, even if we did get Jonah Jackson. So with the 10th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, I have the Chicago Bears getting Kelvin Banks from Texas.
dang it.
That's a good move for Chicago. Any line help?
Okay.
Caleb Williams, you'll take that if you're a Bears fan. Also, I mentioned that I was still not forget when they reached for Darnell Wright a couple years ago at number 10 overall.
He didn't have a good rookie year. I mean, I think he was getting beat a little bit too much on the outside. So that'll help. Getting another Texas guy. TJ, you know about this guy a lot, Kelvin Banks.
Yeah. No, Kelvin Banks is a great lineman, great size, great length. He's able to get physical, especially with the big-time competition. I will say he's had games like against Georgia where it definitely felt like he had his struggles. But I think, in all honesty, if he works on his form a little more, he's definitely going to be the best tackle from this class, in my opinion. Maybe even better than Will Campbell.
Okay. Interesting. I think a lot of people are high on Kelvin Banks, and I think, hey, if the Bears get somebody that a lot of people think might have the potential to be the best lineman in the draft, it's a win for them. Absolute win for them. Anything else you want to talk about the Bears before we move on?
I mean, can we just say that they've really done a good job going out and getting needs? You've beefed up the O-line. You've beefed up the D-line. I like Grady Jarrett as a Chicago Bear. I think it was really needed, in all honesty. So, I mean, I will say Chicago is already doing good things. Now it's just, okay, where do we go from here, in all honesty? Where else do we – let's see if they have a good draft for us.
It's mostly great the Bears. They've had a good offseason the last couple years in a row. Ryan Poles has done a great job at the GM. And, I mean, they split with Green Bay last year and should have beaten them twice. So, yeah. I mean, they're building to win in that NFC North, which is a very tough division. Give or take what the Packers do or don't do with the Vikings quarterback situation looks like this year. But the Bears are a team to quietly keep an eye on, especially if they nailed this draft and if they nailed this first round.
There is still an argument, though, in terms of positional ranking and in terms of where they are and what divisions are, that the Bears might be in the worst position in terms of division because you look at the teams that are going to be there next season, and Green Bay's a perennial playoff threat. Minnesota's reloading a little bit. Detroit just came off a good season, and they're hungry to get back. It's a tough scene for Chicago, but we've seen multiple teams make the NFC North before out of the playoffs. So just keep an eye out on that one. This is a crazy one, the next pick. This is probably the highest this team has drafted in quite some time. It's the San Francisco 49ers picking number 11. Scout, you've got this one.
Yeah, and I think the last time the highest pick that they last had was number 10. And I forget who they took, but they took an offensive lineman from Notre Dame. I know that for sure.
Oh, McGlinchey. That's who they got.
I think they
Trey Lance, 3 overall, a couple years back.
Niners fans won't forget about Trey Lance.
Yeah, I think so too.
So the reason that I said "dang it" when Joey made his pick about
you don't like any of your picks this year, Scout.
So I was kind of now that you had Chicago taking Kelvin Banks, do they reach down and take a guy like Josh Simmons, a national championship offensive lineman from Ohio State, and pass? But here's the deal: and pass up a lot of great defensive players that are still on the board right now. I'm gonna take the latter, and it may not work out in the long run, but here's a guy that I really think could benefit San Fran as well. Let's go back to back with the Texas boys, Jahdae Barron, the cornerback from Texas.
All right, I like that pick.
Oh, okay.
I like the pick because it's the Javarius Ward replacement.
Yeah, I do too. I agree.
Now, I think a lot of Niners fans, when they see where they're at in this draft this year, they'll see that they've lost a ton. There's no escaping that. But I think it's the gravitational pull towards the fact that, we lost Deebo Samuel. We lost our number one guy. So we need to get a number one guy receiver in McMillan. So, but you think that corner is more of a need than getting a receiver.
I do. Now, I don't know. That I guess beauty's in the eye of the beholder, because really you have 2 great edge rushers in addition to Barron, who I just took, still on the board. And also, if you count, really 3 good edge rushers available right now. So we'll see how it plays out. But I'm sticking with that pick.
It's not a bad pick. It shores up their secondary. They lost Hufanga in the offseason. They lost a couple corners as well. You could argue till the end of time which side of the ball San Fran got worse in, but they got worse either way. And they also still have to pay Brock Purdy for what that's worth. They haven't done that yet, or Brandon Ayuk. So we'll see how that goes. It's not an easy time being a San Fran fan, and I think that's the first time we can say that in quite some time. So speaking of fan bases that are, I'm sure, going through tough times right now, the Dallas Cowboys every year have to go through a lot in the offseason. And more than anybody, TJ knows a lot about Dallas Cowboys in the off seasons that they go through. And it's also convenient that he said beforehand that he wanted this set of picks because the 12th pick is, in fact, the Dallas Cowboys. So we'll let the Cowboys.
Well, guys, I really want to pick the Cowboys here, but I think a trade's probably going to happen here.
Ooh.
You want to know why? Because there is a player here that teams are desperately wanting. Dallas doesn't trade usually, but I think the right price, Dallas will trade. So I'm going to initiate the first trade because I don't see this player falling off any more than he already has. I'm going to say the Colts trade up with Dallas 2 spots. And they're going to trade.
Are you doing what I think you're doing?
Uh-oh.
Yes. If it would let me. Hold on.
I was about to say, how do I trade on this thing?
Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, Tyler Warren, drafted by the Colts. Colts make a sweet deal with Dallas, including giving them their first-round pick for this year, and take Tyler Warren. They need that guy. They need to elevate this offense, and I think they would get too scared that he would get taken before he dropped to 14. If he is still there, ain't no way in heck that the Colts are going to sit there and risk the option of losing him. Let's get Tyler Warren to the Colts.
Okay, so to clarify, TJ, this is the 12th pick for the 14th pick and anything else?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I did. I basically just swapped. We're only picking for the first round. I had to trade a third-round pick, and I had to swap third-round picks as well because I thought it made sense, and that's the only way it would let me trade. It wouldn't let me force it. But, yeah, I think they swap. If Dallas is willing to trade back and the Colts are in that situation, Indianapolis, they need a guy like Tyler Warren to bring in a great fan base. They need an explosive offense again that isn't just Jonathan Taylor. They need a guy that Richardson can fall back on that isn't just Michael Pittman. I think Tyler Warren could do wonders for this team here. The Colts need something, man.
Show some shades of a guy like Dallas Clark.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of guys remember that guy in the blue and white in Indianapolis, and I think a lot of Colts fans would love to see another big tight end with a 40s number end up on the end of their line of scrimmage.
I think it's very interesting that our first trade, and I think it makes sense what you described, TJ, but I find it very interesting that teams would trade up for a tight end given the recent history of the draft.
Tyler Warren's more than just a tight end, though. I agree with you, Joey. But with how much value Tyler Warren brings, teams are in love with him. And if somehow he's available, they're going to try and trade up for him. They're going to be making calls. And chances are Tyler Warren will not be available by the time we reach number 12. But that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to say somehow the Colts will get Tyler Warren. I think if a team's willing to trade up, it's going to be the Colts.
So one thing that we'll notice about this draft very quickly, as I'm sure you're listening right now, is that we have not taken Shedeur Sanders yet. So honestly, at 14, that was going to be my pick. If Shedeur had fallen down there to the Colts at 14, I would have considered getting him.
Ooh.
That's real interesting. There's a team at 13 that maybe is in the middle for a quarterback.
Oh, no, the Fins fans got his pick now. All right, so Tyler Warren is to the Colts at 12, and I think, honestly, the Colts have needed a tight end for a long time, so that makes sense.
Wow.
The Dolphins fan has the Dolphins pick. Zach, Thomas.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Thomas.
Oh, boy, Miami. Where do we begin with this team? You got a quarterback that can't stay healthy for an entire season. They have lost a lot of very good pieces, including but not limited to Javon Holland to the Giants, Teron Armstead to his couch, Jeff Wilson to who knows where, Jordan Poyer's out the door. He didn't really feel like it, though. Manu Akba's gone. I think he went somewhere else as well. Robert Jones, one of the linemen, is gone. Tyler Huntley, the backup quarterback, is out the door. Calais Campbell went back to Arizona. Imagine going back to Arizona over the Dolphins. Just let that one sink in for a second.
He started his career in Arizona. I can forget that.
And Braxton Berrios is also gone. He went to Houston, but the Dolphins and Texans have kind of swapped players throughout the entirety of the last 7 or 8 years. Enter Laramie Tunsil and the wonders that trade did for the Miami Dolphin franchise. To replace all of that, who do you bring in? Alexander Madison. You lose Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson, you bring in Alexander Madison.
Yeah.
Artie Burns is also coming to the Miami Dolphins this year. Do with that information what you will. I don't think he's that great. His name is Artie Burns, and he gets burnt quite a bit. Is there a correlation? I sure hope not. Zach Wilson is now a Miami Dolphin. Oh, boy. Nick Westbrook-Akine is also a Dolphin. And actually like Akine. He's a former Tennessee Titan, kind of a good run-blocking piece. Miami is a team that wants to run the ball but isn't physical enough to do that. So having a big physical guy wide receiver is not the worst thing in the world for Miami. But there are a couple of glaring holes on this team, in my opinion, just because of the guys that are lost. Obviously, the offensive line. Patrick Paul was drafted pretty high last year, so I imagine he's going to be the guy to step in and play in that left spot where Armstead was, and also, too, being a lefty. Doesn't mean that Paul's going to have to be the blindside protector. He's going to be on the strong side of Tua because he's a left-handed quarterback. So that's not a huge deal, I don't think, on the offensive line as of right now. The backfield, you've got some guys back there. Devon Achane is there. Jalen Wright from Tennessee is a speedster they drafted last year. I think they'll be okay as well. Chopper Robinson was drafted on the defensive line high last year as well. He is a guy that can play, and he can play well. My concern here is in the secondary and at safety, and I think that this is a pick the Dolphins would reach on, quite honestly, because it's the Dolphins, and there's a chance they trade this pick down. I think there's a likelihood they could do that However, I think with the glaring hole at safety and the loss of how good Javon Holland has been in Miami, I think they're going to maybe reach down and grab a safety. And there's one that I really like in this draft. It's a guy who is maybe the best safety in this class. He runs a 4.5 40. He can jump 33 inches high. He was very productive in college at the University of Georgia. And the athleticism, there was a knock on him. He's maybe not the most athletic safety. He's probably middle of the pack in that department this year. But you remember, too, this guy was a quarterback in high school at Jefferson High School down in Georgia, and he took his team to a state championship where they lose to Marist High School just a couple of years ago. This pick is Malachi Starks, safety from Georgia.
I love it. Oh, man. Look, best safety in the class, man. He can do so much. He can play corner, nickel, whatever you need him to do. He is so versatile. That's
and
exactly.
He's a thumper, too. He'll go and hit somebody. He hasn't had a guy like that in a while.
Yeah. Oh, Zach, that's beautiful. I don't care if that's a reach. I like that. Oh my gosh.
Hey, anybody that balls out in college football 25 is good enough for me. That's all I'm saying.
Now, Joey's from experience. I think in the games that we have played on college football 25, Malachi Starks has been the recipient of a lot of my passes.
And he's good though. I mean,
I'm not good at the game. I'll throw that one out there for free.
Well, hey, Malachi Starks is good no matter if it's me playing Zach or the CPU playing for the CPU. I mean, Malachi Starks is very good everywhere he's been. And honestly, though, if I'm a Miami fan, I'm not complaining. I mean, offensive lineman, the best one out there was Josh Simmons. And I don't know if the Dolphins fan would be happy with that pick. I'm all right with this. It's a home run hitter at safety. And especially if Jalen Ramsey's out the door, you got to build up the secondary somewhere.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the Dolphins fan got his safety, and I'm sure he's happy now. So a position that I was not expecting to find myself in today has now appeared. I am now the recipient of the Dallas Cowboys pick.
Did you approve of that trade, Joey?
I actually got the pick straight up, I'll have you know. So it might be a skill issue on TJ's end. But anyway, I've got the Dallas Cowboys pick, and I suddenly feel an immense amount of pressure. But here's the thing, right? You know who's fallen right into their lap aside from Shedeur? Boy, that's hilarious if they pick him.
Oh, don't do it.
Don't do it. I can't escape it. Dallas isn't going to trade. Dallas isn't going to trade the pick, right? Okay. And Dallas has glaring needs that are not quarterback. I'm not picking Shedeur. Like, chill out. I'm not doing that. No, I'm picking the guy who it's kind of unfair that he's gone this late. I'm picking with the 14th selection in the 2025 NFL Draft. I'm picking a receiver. Give me Tatori McMillan from Arizona.
Hey, that's not a bad pick. Look, Ted's a great receiver. The problem is he's done bad. The problem with Ted that I worry about, he's done terrible against good competition. But I think he offers a lot of receiver. Dallas needs a receiver. And if Ted's there, you draft Ted. If not, maybe Matthew Golden, maybe Shamar Stewart. There's so many options Dallas can go with. But the Jerry option would be Ted, I feel like, if he's still.
It goes to what type of receiver you want, too. Because Seven Millens to go up and get a guy, I would think. Whereas the Matthew Goldens are just flat out speed burners, and there certainly is a place for those type of players.
Which is a Jerry pick.
And if you want both, Luther Burden's sitting there too. So do with that.
He is. He slid down draft boards more than I expected, Luther Burden. But I will say this about Ted: he's used to cornerback one competition in college. In the NFL, he's going to get a lot of CB2 coverage, a lot of nickel corner coverage. He might feast on that. And with, the special teams guy that scored those touchdowns last season, I can't think of his name right now. The guy who did really well. Kevontae Turpin in the slot. Of course, you got CeeDee Lamb, who did a team-friendly deal, which I think is the best thing the Cowboys have done all offseason. And then you've got good things over there on offense. Look, Dallas has always had a potent offense, whether it's been good years or bad years, right? Yeah. And to add to the fact as well, they've got a couple backs in this draft as I look up here. They got Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams. They got a two-headed monster over there. Listen, if they're going to lose games, they're not going to lose it on offense next season. I mean, they're going to lose a lot of 35-28.
They have a decent offense. If you get a good guy like Ted, maybe you go out and also get like one of those Ohio State running backs, because Miles Sanders doesn't stay healthy, number one. Number two, Javonte Williams isn't the type of guy that can get you 1,000 yards. So if one of the boys from Ohio State is available in the second round, find a way to trade up. Look, if this Colts and Dallas Cowboys trade does happen, which I don't think it will, but I do think that Dallas is going to take a shot at one of the running backs in the second round. I don't think Amari and Hampton will be around that long. I do think one of those Ohio State boys will be drafted first round. We'll have to wait and see. But look, Dallas's needs are going to be at defense, but also you got to think of the O-line. You just lost Zach Martin to retirement. Tyron Smith came over just to retire. That's one of the weak points too. But the problem is this O-line class in the first round isn't as heavy as it probably will be in the second and third. So I wouldn't stress to draft a lineman right now because linemen are there's so much lineman depth in this draft that I feel like you can get a good one at a second or third round pick. So yeah, receiver, one of the top receivers, or go and get a tough edge in case Micah Parsons doesn't work out, or get a guy that Micah wants to work with, like Shamar or a Mikael if he's still available and so forth. Maybe go for a DB because they've been weak in that area over there too.
So in the interest of fairness, TJ, if you had this 14th pick, who would you have drafted?
Mikael Williams out of Georgia if he was available.
Okay. He is still there.
Yeah, he is still there.
He's still there.
Yeah, but I didn't get the pick because I traded it.
Yeah. We asked the question. The Cowboys fan answered it. He proceeded to trade the pick, which, hey, more power to him. But I picked a receiver from Arizona, which I think could also be a Jerry pick.
I ain't upset with the pick.
We are close to halfway done with the first round. And up next is the Atlanta Falcons. Scout, you have a team in your own division. Again, sorry about the way it went down.
Yeah.
Scout.
Oh, we lost him. And he's disappeared.
Technical difficulties gone. Scout, you there?
Joey's also disappeared. I heard a thud in my living room.
Scout and Joey have disappeared. I did too.
Okay,
I heard a thud on the video. Okay.
Probably good call. I don't lamp in there right now.
Yeah. Scout probably had to go check on his grandfather.
How's the lighting in there? Should mention again here. Should mention I have a lamp in the living room right now. So if you're watching on the stream, you got a lot brighter. I have these two little candles on the wall that are very fake, and they do their job. But the lamp will be arriving hopefully this week, thanks to our friends over at that one online store that sells about everything. You can get it in 3 days. And they also happen to air Thursday football games. I don't know if there's a copyright thing we're allowed to or not allowed to say that on this year program, but just in case, got to be safe.
Man.
So
Joey,
I just came back. Did Scout rage quit by getting
I think he just
I think Scout went to go check on his grandfather. But I mean, if you want, why don't we read back the picks so that we have some
recap? We're an hour and 15 into this thing, so
yeah, let's do that. So we head to the mock draft simulator, and I think coming off of what I think is going to be the first contentious pick. So let me just pull up the notes. So the first pick, not really a surprise here, but the first pick was, in fact, Cam Ward. We drafted him for the Tennessee Titans. There haven't been really any decent trades up to couple picks ago. I actually can't see the simulator, but I'll do the best I can. The second pick that we went ahead and chose was, again, another consensus pick for the Cleveland Browns, which was Travis Hunter at receiver. And at cornerback, he'll be there going forward. For the third pick, we decided to go with Abdul Carter. Again, the consensus pick among a lot. The first, I'd say, 8 picks or so were pretty easy and pretty uncontentious. And speaking of that, the fourth pick ended up being selected.
I got you. Go click. Do you see where the drafted players say hide drafted players? You can click show, and you'll see.
I've got the order up right here, boys. So we were at, 4? 4 was Will Campbell Lyman from LSU to New England. At number 5, we had mocked Jacksonville to draft Mason Graham, the defensive tackle from Michigan. At 6, the mock pick was Ashton Genty, running back for Boise State, to the Las Vegas Raiders. At number 7, Ahmad Mimbo, the lineman from Mizzou, mocked there to the New York Football Jets. Dylan Walker was mocked at number 8 overall from Michigan. He is a corner, he was mocked to the Saints. Rather, I didn't get the Carolina pick. I guess I typed over on accident. But
Jalen Walker.
Jalen Walker was there.
Jalen
Okay.
Walker,
Will Johnson was from Michigan. So we put 2 Michigan guys there. At number 10 overall, it was mocked Kelvin Banks go to the Chicago Bears, the offensive line from Texas. Another Texan we picked number 11 by San Francisco, Jahdae Barron, the corner from Texas. At number 12, the Dallas Cowboys would execute a trade up to number 12 to draft Tyler Warren the Colts rather trade up for Tyler Warren for Penn State with the Dallas Cowboys. Miami took Malachi Starks 13 overall and then number 14 overall in our mock draft. And the most recent pick, wide receiver Shatori McMillan, the top receiver on many people's boards from Arizona. We now turn to Scout Hughes with the Atlanta Falcons at number 15. Scout.
Thank you so much, Zach, and keeping us occupied. So I've made my mind up on a position. I have not made up my mind on a player.
I see.
And
okay.
Let's hope it's not quarterback.
No. My concern is with Williams from Georgia, the edge rusher.
Yeah.
An ankle injury is still an ankle injury.
Yeah, you're right.
Mm.
And he missed 2 games for it. Now, in my mind, is that enough to move the needle to where the Falcons choose a different player at that position? I don't know. I'm not the Falcons. But right now I am. What are you going to say, Joey?
Are you torn between – because I think I know the position.
I'm torn between Williams and Stewart from A&M because it's just –
Yeah.
Okay, so you're out on Mike Green.
Well, I think he's a good player.
Okay.
But if I'm the Falcons, now I am out on Mike Green for the Falcons right now. I'm gonna do something crazy. The ankle injury just really concerns me. I'm taking Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M, and it's nothing personal against Williams. It's just that the ankle injury concerns me. Now, things may have changed and things may be different, but I just can't take the risk of re-aggravation. And that might sound really bad. When you think about, guy from Georgia not getting drafted to Atlanta, but that ankle injury just really concerns me.
Well, you've got to get health on the defensive side of the ball. If there's one thing that plagued Atlanta last season, it was, in fact, injuries. So I think the pick, I understand your concern about Atlanta not picking the Georgia guy, but we've seen a ton of those happen. Shoot, I mean, Pittsburgh passed up on Joey Porter Jr. a couple years ago, and they ended up taking him in the second round. I mean, all could still work out. There's a ton of Georgia draft prospects this year once again, but I don't have any problem with the Falcons drafting. If anything, I would have a problem with the Falcons going against defensive end after what they did last year.
Yeah. But I don't know. Was his injury last year a big concern for you guys?
Not massively, in all honesty.
Okay. So maybe exactly, but I don't know. Maybe I'm in the wrong on that, but I'm going to stick with my pick.
You can definitely re-aggravate it. There is concern that you can re-aggravate that injury. I think you have a good point. What?
I don't think if you're the Falcons, that's hard to mess that pick up because you're either way, whether you get Shamar Stewart or whether you get Mikael Williams, you're getting a really good edge rusher. Both those guys can play. They're both physical freaks. And if the injury is that big of a deal, okay, you take Stewart. You're still going to get a great player, but Mikael Williams being the hometown pick, Athens only a couple hours down the road from Atlanta, that would make sense too. So what do the Falcons think? I don't think they're going to complain if they get an edge rusher at that position.
Okay.
Also, throw this out there for free. If they're in a situation like that, Atlanta, where they're torn between 2 or maybe 3 edge rushers, considering who's picking next, is there a scenario where maybe the Falcons and the Cardinals flip-flop picks?
No,
I'm thinking.
they both have the same amount of needs. I feel like there's plenty of
Right.
guys where I because you look at it, they both need high DNs that can get to quarterbacks, right? And there are plenty of guys on the edge on the DN scale, even on defensive tackle scales, that can get to the quarterback.
Okay. No, that's fair. I mean,
Unless there's a player Arizona really wants, they fear the Falcons are going to get them. Then maybe you do the old Chicago Bears with San Fran 49ers to get Mitchell Trubisky that one year.
Oh, dear golly.
bad
That
trade
worked out
comparison.
for him.
Bears fans don't want to remember that trade. You see.
San Fran benefited.
I was
Yeah.
coming out of film
No,
class.
did they trade with the Browns?
No,
it was San
they-
Fran.
It was San Fran?
Because San Fran got Solomon Thomas right after.
Okay.
They were never going to get Mitchell Trubisky. I don't know why the Bears.
Oh, that's right. They traded to leapfrog the Browns. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Makes sense now. Okay. So in this case, we have the Falcons drafting an edge rusher. Let's see if the Arizona Cardinals follow suit as we've hit halfway in the 2025 NFL mock draft for our station. And with the 16th pick, TJ, you've got this one for Arizona.
A lot receiver is a top need for the Cardinals, but there's plenty of receivers to go around in the second and third round that I don't think it's a high need. I think if you're the Cardinals, you want to go either DB or defensive line. Their defense was super weak, and it's the reason why they lost a majority of their games. They are literally in 20th, in literally under 20 when it comes to, or over 20 technically, in the rankings when it comes to defensive efficiency, the statistics and everything. They struggled to get to quarterbacks last year. This is why I think if you want a guy that can get to quarterbacks, a guy that can shred O-linemen, I love the tape that I saw from this guy. I've been high on him since I've been studying the draft. I'm going with Mike Green out of Marshall. The Arizona Cardinals. Yeah,
Oh,
interesting.
wow.
I
Wow.
think they
Over the
jumped-
Georgia kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
that's not where I
interesting
thought you were
pick.
going, but I like the pick regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as
I
they
mean,
take an edge
watch
rusher, I'm
his
happy.
tape. Watch his tape. It's amazing. I loved watching the guy's tape. I watched him specifically in the Senior Bowl against Power 5 competition in those drills. It's amazing. I'm big on the kid.
I mean, he led the FBS in sacks.
Yeah.
He had 17 sacks.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And yes, it was
Okay.
mostly against.
So a couple
major
edge
competition.
rushers get taken off the board.
But to TJ's point of what he was just about to say, oh, well, he didn't play against powerful. I don't think that necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't think that necessarily matters.
That's my point too. But I'm also going to say he shredded guys like Kelvin Banks in the Senior Bowl. That's what I'm saying. Like he shredded guys that are going to be drafted before him. He has talent. He's what the Falcons have wanted for a while. And now the Cardinals, if he drops to the Cardinals, it would be stupid to get him. And no injury history either. No injury history. That's the number one thing to look at.
It's key. That's also key for a prospect is to not have an injury issue. And that's probably a reason why Michael Williams from Georgia has not been drafted yet. But we talking about edge rushers. The past couple of picks have been linked to a major problem at that position for quite some time now. The 17th pick in the draft, Zach, you've got the Cincinnati Bengals. Oh, boy.
Oh, boy is right. The Cincinnati defensive line is in shambles, to say the least. Sam Hubbard is retired. Sheldon Rankins is also no longer there. So that's two problems. Then there's the whole Trey Hendrickson thing. What's going on there? And does he want to be there? Is he going to play next year? Is he going to hold out? Is he going to get a new contract? The defensive line is a huge issue right now in Cincinnati. Their problems are on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, they re-signed Jamar Chase and T. Higgins both to long-term deals. Somehow did the cap gymnastics to make that work while paying Joe Burrow. So good on them for that. They also, I think, have some issues in their running game. I don't think they ended up re-signing Khalil Herbert. I don't remember. Yeah, he departed in the agency as well. So they have some issues on the offensive line. A couple guys, Alex Kappa, Trent Brown have left, but that's also nothing new for Cincinnati having no offensive line, just good enough players at the skill positions to kind of mask that iniquity. But I think you guys are right with the linking of Cincinnati to a defensive lineman, because that is probably their biggest need right now. They couldn't stop anybody last year. And you have a team that was losing games where they'd score 30 plus. That should never happen under any circumstance. It happened to them every single week. And Cincinnati, that should have been a playoff team last year. They go in and they handle it at the end of the year. They lose because Kansas City rests their starters, and all people, Carson Wentz screws them, because that's what Carson Wentz does at this stage.
Oh, they also lost to the Patriots. That screwed them over too.
Yeah, that week one loss in England,
help.
which I'm sure Joey loved, was inexcusable for Cincinnati team.
Nope,
that
cost us number one pick.
Should have won that game. But it cost them one pick too, and also the Titans game and a couple others, but we digress from that whole thing. The Bengals should draft defensive linemen in this round. They should draft offensive linemen in the second round. They should address the rest of it elsewhere. And I think right now, Mikael Williams is still sitting on the board. That's a pick you have got to make if you're the Cincinnati Bengals at this point.
Okay. Mikael Williams goes off the board a couple picks later than maybe other people anticipated, but there's a lot to like with this kid. I mean, any Georgia player that goes in the first round, the intangibles are going to be there. But hey, Mikael Williams from Georgia.
We just had 3 straight edge rushers go off the board, and it was really interesting because when I was talking about when I was talking about Atlanta and their pick, they had options to choose from, and it wasn't, and they kind of took it while they could in this case, because it's boom, boom, boom.
Yeah. Look, I mean, we saw a draft last year that went 13 straight picks with offensive players. We're going to see. We're going to go back to the return of mostly defensive players in this draft, I think. I don't think there's a lot of explosive offensive players outside of the running back class. The running back class is the best depth in this draft. That's the first time that's happened since I'll go back and say the Saquon Barkley was drafted back in 2016, right? I felt like that was the last time the running back depth has been huge.
Well, I was going to say, TJ, just on the Bengals before we circle into our next pick here, Seattle. Another guy to watch out for Cincinnati. If Walker is not there for a reason, Jahad Campbell's sitting on the board too. I'm back from Alabama. He's a guy can play edge rusher, very athletic, smart, heady type of kid. I think Cincinnati Bengals love to have him in the building as well if he can get him.
Yeah, I was kind of eyeing him too for the Bengals at that pick, but I mean, honestly, any defensive pick is a good pick for Cincinnati here.
Yeah,
so
you need a Sam Hubbard replacement and prepare for Trey Hendrickson to leave. I think if Williams is still there, you draft the kid.
All right, so 3 straight edge rushers go off the board. If there's one thing we know about the NFL draft, it's a first round of patterns, and we're seeing that throughout the last few picks in our mock draft. But that could change here because with the 18th pick, I've got the Seattle Seahawks, and their offense has gone through a lot of change. Really, the only guy that stayed there is Kenneth Walker. Quarterback, different look. They paid Sam Darnold $100 million. Who could have seen that coming a year ago? They also got Drew Lock back as the backup, except with Geno Smith not there. It's going to be Sam Darnold and Drew Lock. So that's going to be an interesting duo. But they also got DeMarcus Lawrence, who I don't think people are talking enough about. I think it's quietly a good pick. And then they replaced DK Metcalf, who is gone now. Tyler Lockett's no longer there. So they basically replaced them with Cooper Kupp, who, still considered to be good at his position, but how much does he have left in the tank? Marcus Valdes-Scantling and River Craycraft. And, the amount of interesting tidbits that'll come out from that receiver camp will be very, very fascinating to watch in the preseason. So Seattle needs a lot. And honestly, offensive line has been kind of a thing that has plagued Seattle for a long time. I look at the offensive line that's in this draft, and the top lineman's Josh Simmons. Now, I'm not as big on Josh Simmons as a few other people are, but I also understand that, you got to protect Sam Darnold if you paid him $100 million a year. I think there's a ton of ways you could go with this pick. I mean, I'm torn on this one because it's one of those, I think Seattle has a lot of holes they need to fill, and there's guys that need to fill those positions that are still on the board. Obviously, there's a few good options here, but I'm just going to go ahead and go with the guy that I think is linked to one team. But honestly, I think if he falls here, I think Seattle will be tempted not. I think Seattle will be in a good position to take him because I think he's going to fall to 18. And with the 18th pick in the 2025 NFL draft, they're going to select Matthew Golden from Texas.
Yeah. They need speed. You need young receivers because you've got some of the oldest receivers out there right now. Cooper Kupp, a great slot receiver, but not the kind of guy you want running on the edge. And then there's MVS. So, yeah, I like this pick a lot, Joey. And Jackson Smith and Jigba will definitely be wide receiver 1. But then I can see a world where Jackson Smith and Jigba, Matthew Golden, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. The only reason why I call Kupp a wide receiver 3 is because you're going to see him in slot form more.
It was a tough one. I mean, I could see them trade the pick even. But honestly, I mean, Seattle doesn't have a history of receivers being drafted with speed. I mean, Metcalf was just an athletic freak when he was drafted. Tyler Lockett, we always knew him as a possession guy. And JSN just kind of did everything really well and still does everything really well for Seattle. But I think you get speed on the offense. I mean, imagine him. I mean, Sam Darnold doesn't need to do a lot to throw drag routes and slant routes. That's what every quarterback needs to know how to do. So if he can get the ball out of his hands quickly, just like Golden run for days, hey, he's your Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
So, any other things we should say about Seattle before we move on? Cool. So 19th pick as we get closer to the end. I just realized what I've done, Scout. I've given you another division rival in Tampa Bay. Sorry about that.
Both New York teams and division rivals, except for the Saints.
They're also a division rival.
Yeah. So here's my concern with Tampa Bay. Actually, with Seattle taking a wide receiver, it almost made Tampa Bay's pick for me a lot easier.
Yeah.
Scout's breaking up.
In my opinion. Oh, am I breaking up?
A little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay, I'll start over. So, yeah, with Tampa Bay right here, it's really interesting because with Seattle taking wide receiver, it almost makes the pick for Tampa Bay, for me at least, a little bit easier. At this point, I don't think that they need a linebacker. Even though they lost Shaq Barrett, they got Anthony Walker Jr. and Hassan Reddick, who I think is a great pickup in free agency. But at the same time, are you trying to look long-term on your defense, or can you go in a different direction? In my mind, and this is up for debate, a good fit for Tampa Bay right now would be Colston Loveland, the tight end for Michigan. I think, you have good wide receivers, though some of them are prone to be injury prone. I'm going Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan. I think he'll fit right in. I think it's a good. You say what you want. It was. It was either that or Jihad Campbell. It was either that or Jihad Campbell for me. But based on their free agency moves that Tampa Bay did, I think they'll be okay.
I think either way, Tampa Bay's trying to prepare for the inevitable Levante David retirement. He signed a 1-year deal with them, and he's probably going to retire as a Buck. So I think whether they draft a linebacker or whether they just stick with Anthony Walker Jr. or Hassan Reddick, I think either way they're set for that when it does happen. And I think you can go out there and get another weapon for Baker. If there's one thing we know about Baker, he's going to find those weapons if they're open.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Colston Loveland is definitely the kind of tight end that can do it all. Block, obviously receive. So he's definitely a guy you want on your team.
Should mention, too, that if this prediction holds true, Scout, this will be the first time since 1973 we had two tight ends drafted in the first round. And that was back in what happened in 1972 as well, when Denver picked Riley Odoms at number 5 and the Jets fell with Jerome Barkham.
Really?
Number 9 overall. In 1973, it was the Steelers drafting Larry Anderson. Kansas City Chiefs took Tony Van Glider at number 12 overall. That's according to an article from 107.5 The Fan. So, bit of an interesting nugget for you guys this evening.
Well, thank you.
Kind of funny. Appreciate the nugget, Zach. But it's kind of funny because I think a lot of people expected multiple tight ends to be selected in last year's first round. And now
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And now we've got multiple tight ends. Not only that, a tight end being traded up for, in our case, with the Colts as well. So very interesting moves, but I like the pick. I couldn't tell you tight end Tampa Bay has right now. So fair enough. As we move on to the 20th pick, here we are, folks. We're flying through these right now.
Man.
We're getting to the playoff teams now officially, and it's the time for the Denver Broncos, who are one of the most nice surprises of the season last year. TJ, you've got this one. What do you want to give them?
Yeah. I think let me ask y'all this. What has been one of Denver's consistent weaknesses on offense?
Running back?
They've had a lot of injuries back.
Yeah. And I'm gonna tell you what, right now, I haven't remembered Denver having a 1,000-yard running back since Philip Lindsay was on the team. With that being said, there's a running back that I think a lot of people are overlooking, and I truly think this guy has the talent to help in the backfield. He's got great speed, great vision. He's a great third down running back, and he can help with the short passing game if they ever need to do screenplays, right? Which the Broncos love doing. We've seen that. Ladies and gentlemen, this is where Omarion Hampton of Carolina goes.
Wow. I think I'm more surprised at the fact that the Duke guy is high on the UNC running back.
I think Omarion Hampton's first-round talent, man. There's a lot to love about that kid. I think it would be silly to pass up on him.
They've drafted Carolina running backs before. I mean, Javonte Williams, another one that was there and had a lot of success, is a guy that you look at and say Denver drafted him. He was okay when he was healthy. And, Omarion Hampton, probably one of the better backs that UNC's pumped out in the last few years. Of course, Williams, Ty Shang were the last two they've had before him. But Carolina, they've had some guys who can run, especially last year when they had the quarterback injuries they had early in the season. Yeah. Makes the running backs look a little bit better out there in Chapel Hill.
I'm a fan of their offseason as well, just to add on to that point. Dre Greenlaw, who's coming off, half a good season, came back, played really well. I like that pick. I like the signing of Hufanga as well. Quietly, one of San Fran's better defensemen. Evan Ingram as well, another under-the-radar signing. Denver's quietly had a really good offseason. And to sneak in a Marion Hampton, I think that's just icing on the cake.
Scott, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, think about this. Hampton, third in the nation in yards after contact. He had over 1,000 yards of yards after contact.
Yeah. That's crazy.
And that's at 221 pounds.
Yeah.
Can't wait till Sean Payton somehow mismanages him and puts in Audric Estime for 1,000 yards a season. But no, I think this is going to be a great pick for Omarion Hampton. Sean Payton's he's micromanaged running backs before. Take it from the Saints fan. Just trust me on this one. Anyway, so Omarion Hampton at 20 is an interesting pick. Zach, you've got a bit of a problem at 21.
I do. Pittsburgh. Because Pittsburgh is a team that I would have had running back.
I hope he doesn't fall into peer pressure.
Now here's the thing, guys. Like, logically speaking, I think there's a very decent chance that Hampton and or Genty could still be here at 21. I think that's a really real possibility. I think so. So I think the Raiders could take a quarterback. Okay. Not saying they're going to, but Geno Smith is a Band-Aid. He's not a permanent solution. So I'm just going to leave that one there for you guys for free. But on our board right now, looking at the running backs at least, you have a couple guys from Ohio State. You have Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. Both those guys are probably middle, second, upper third round type of picks on a lot of people's boards. Cam Scotabo is another name that stands out from Arizona State, who I really like, by the way, and Caleb Johnson from Iowa also on the board. But those are guys the Steelers can get at a later time if they choose to do so. So running backs probably not be drafted at this point in the draft. Let's go ahead and look at the things that they've done this offseason. They've actually made a few pretty good moves. I mean, I really like that they added Juan Thornhill at safety, and they've kind of had a bit of a hole there in the secondary the last couple of years, and Beanie Bishop had a couple of good games when he played for him. And, of course, they also had the likes of Eric Rowe in there at safety the last couple of years. He's been very okay for them. He's well past his prime. But Juan Thornhill is a guy who's still young enough to play well, and he's probably on the tail end of his prime. So they can get another couple of good years out of him. Scotty Miller, DK Metcalf, both additions at receiver, both very good players. Kenneth Gainwell is a guy they added in the backfield. So they at least have somebody who's capable back there to fill in the hole that was left by Najee Harris. And I believe they also have Joe Moore and so on teams. So running back maybe isn't as immediate of a need as the people think the Steelers have at that position. But what have they lost? Dave Moore, offensive tackle, went to Tennessee. Good pickup for the Titans. Actually, no, Joe Moore did go away. I missed that one somehow.
He's an RFA right now.
Yeah, so he's an RFA, so he may or may not come back. We will see what they do with him with the restrictions and whatnot. Cam Sutton's gone. Who cares? Mike Williams, who cares? Lyndon Roberts, okay. Jazzy's gone. They filled that hole. Van Jefferson's gone. The Steelers have lost a lot, but I'll give you a couple names they lost that are really big. And there's three of them that stand out to me on this list. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Kyle Allen. Three of those guys have something in common. That is that they're all quarterbacks. The Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback room right now is Mason Rudolph, Enlist. Aaron Rodgers may or not be a Pittsburgh Steeler in 2 days. We don't know that. If Rodgers wants to go and sign the contract, great. If he's going to play football next year, it's going to be for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that's been a pretty drawn conclusion for the last few days. It's just a matter of does Rodgers want to keep playing or does he want to go do drugs in a cave again? That's ultimately his decision. We're not going to hold him to it. But if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think I have to make a decision that's best for my franchise going forward, independent of what a player does or does not do. If Shedeur Sanders is on the board, he's the guy that is not supposed to be here at this point. I think that is a pick the Steelers are going to have to make because there is nobody else on the board that fits a need as big as quarterback. And also, they're good at the other position, it seems like, from what they've done in the offseason so far. So with that being said, with the 20th pick in our mock draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Shedeur Sanders, quarterback from Colorado.
Makes sense.
But
all
those other two for free. If Shedeur is not there for whatever reason, which I think he's going to be going out, look out for Jackson Dart in this spot. Look out for Joe Milrow in this spot. Look out for Will Howard maybe in the second or third round in that spot. The Steelers are going to draft a quarterback. It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. And also a lot of that's going to have to do with when Aaron Rodgers does or does not sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers in a couple of days, weeks, months, years, or what have you.
So with Shedeur being drafted and with the quarterback room being what it is right now, he's the starter day one.
I think he's going to be able to compete for the starting job, but with the return of Mason Rudolph, I would probably wager that Shedeur is not a day one starter. He's probably starting by October or November, give him a few weeks, kind of learn the system and what Mike Tomlin wants to do.
Okay. So at long last for Colorado fans, but the stars are off the board for them. Travis Hunter departed 20 picks ago, pretty much. Shedeur Sanders is a Pittsburgh Steeler, and they didn't need to trade up to do it. If you're a Steeler fan, are you happy with this? Do you care what Rodgers does at that point? Like, did you just send Aaron Rodgers into retirement with this pick? Like, if you're a Pittsburgh fan, what are you thinking right now?
Well, no, I think if you're a Pittsburgh fan, in all honesty, you're probably happy with this pick just because, one, not just because of the brand, but look, Shedeur's not as terrible as we like to make him out to be. I think he just gets hate because of how outspoken he is. There's talent there. Now, is he a day one starter? No. He has trouble with holding onto the ball. He has trouble overlooking his receivers, which was a constant problem. Look at the bowl game against BYU. Perfect example. He couldn't read the defense well. I think sitting under Aaron Rodgers and learning under him, who I think Rodgers eventually will sign with the Steelers when he decides, okay, I'm tired of being a top headline. Let me actually sign with the team and get to work. But I do think Mike Tomlin wants this kind of guy. I do think you want to bring Sanders into this kind of mix. And I think it's good for Steelers. I think it's good for Steeler fans, whether they believe it or not. Maybe as a Steeler fan, you're upset because of everything you hear about Shedeur Sanders, but if you know ball, you know that Shedeur Sanders might fit in well here.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
He's just very raw, and Shedeur and Rodgers' combination is a good thing in my book.
Yeah.
And he's honestly, looking at the remaining picks, probably the last place he can go in the first round.
Unless there's a trade.
And honestly, only one trade so far. We'll see if that changes at 22. I have the Chargers at 22, and I do not think they will be trading this pick. Normally is around the time where you start to see a few first-round trades in actuality in the NFL draft, but here I'm just like, I think the Chargers got bigger needs to fill. I also know Joey Bosa just left, and they kind of need to fill that replacement for him. They've got a few needs to fill at defense, if we're being honest. But I've looked at this position for a while now, and I think it just makes sense for them. With the 22nd pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Derek Harmon, defensive lineman from Oregon.
Okay. All right. Nice.
I believe this is the Charger pick. I think the guy with the best tape among D linemen, not named Mason from Michigan, is Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. That's a name to look out for. But I have them getting Derek Harmon here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no one else wants to say anything about the Chargers because they had a pretty eventful offseason. They got Najee Harris and they got some notable pieces. Go ahead.
I think for sure. I think Harbaugh is definitely transforming this team. I will say there are some questionable pickups. I like the Dante Jackson pickup. That's exciting to see. Mekhi Becton, maybe he transforms. Mike Williams returning. I think they'll probably try and bring Keenan Allen back. But my worrisome is they're going to have to focus on defense a lot in this draft because they lost a lot of key pieces, including Joey Bosa. Derek Harmon may be a great start, especially if he falls. There's talk that he may go top 15 somehow, but I do think if he falls that it's a good start to pick him up right there. So I like the pick. Otherwise, I'd say Walter Nolan or Kenneth Grant. Harbaugh's known for picking his boys. So, and Kenneth Grant is a pretty good defensive tackle.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's a good pick. Defensive line, they got to go there. Joey Bosa has gone. Khalil Mack is going to be 35 next season. So you got to shore that up. It's hard to believe because I watched Mack since his Buffalo days. And the fact that he's this old is crazy. But he's a Hall of Famer for me, and the Chargers need to take advantage of that. Scout, you've got a team that is near and dear to a friend's heart that isn't yours. It's the Green Bay Packers, and, a division rival it is not, and nor is it a New York team.
But it is historic, and I really do not want to let Zach down with this pick.
I understand the pressure that
All I
comes
know
with
is pain,
this.
Scout.
What'd you say?
All I know is pain.
If only Shador was here. Right?
Honest to goodness, I'm going to go against my philosophy from a few picks ago. And here's my reasoning behind it. The pick is Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle from Ohio State. The reason, and I'm going to go ahead and pick that right there. But, and the reason that's the case is because he's actually a transfer guy. He was at San Diego State, and then he was at Ohio State. When he was at San Diego State, he was a right tackle. When he was at Ohio State, he was a left tackle. So he's very, he can be put in either one, basically. Now, obviously, the concern is the patella tendon. He missed a good chunk of, of last season with that injury. But projections say he's going to be ready for the start of the 25 season. But here's the thing. When you
Scout.
Crap, it happened again. Did I go out again?
You did, but continue.
Yeah.
Okay. But really, when he gets that at the snap of the ball, he's so quick off the ball. I think he's going to adjust fine in the NFL, and I think he's going to do a lot of good work for Green Bay. And, first off, Zach, how do you grade my pick?
Well, tackle is maybe a need. I don't know if it's the need in Green Bay, but based on what's left, I would have liked to maybe, call me crazy, do something the Packers don't ever do, and that is draft a wide receiver. Because that receiver really lacks a receiver one. Based off the losses, cornerbacks also need Eric Stokes departed. Corey Ballantyne's out. Alexander also his future is still very much in limbo with the team right now, although it appears he is going to be a part of the roster, at least heading into the preseason, because I haven't been able to find a trade partner for him. So we'll see what they do in that department. But Green Bay, I could see trading back for a corner. I could see them trading back for a receiver. They added Aaron Banks at guard. So they have added an offensive lineman. They also brought in Nate Hobbs, Miko Harbin. They've addressed those needs. But if they were to maybe, trade out of this pick, I'd be perfectly fine with that. If they were to go and draft some more line depth, get a guy that can start, because I don't know how sold they are on the current offensive line situation. But we will see what they do. But I personally would not be opposed to Luther Burden going right here.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's the Packers.
Okay,
they're
so
going
Luther
to draft
Burden
man.
to the
They always
Packers.
do.
In my mind, I didn't see a situation where the possibility is there for Green Bay to trade down. I just didn't see it in that circumstance.
Okay.
So
So
no, I think this is very much it's more of a once draft than needs draft for Green Bay, and has been the last couple of years. They really weren't two pieces away. They just have to find the right guy.
Mhm. And anytime you can protect a guy that's making as much as Jordan Love is making with how much he got sacked, and he got injured a couple times last year, mainly because of, offensive line protection or lack thereof, kind of hurts to have as more protection is better than not enough. I think we can all agree on that.
That was also another mindset.
So Josh Simmons from Ohio State can protect the quarterback. I don't have a problem with it. Packers fan thinks it's a need. We'll see what they do. Honestly, Green Bay could go anywhere in this draft.
They really could. They could go defense too. John Campbell's sitting there, linebacker. They drafted Tyron Hopper last year from Mizzou, who was pretty good. And they also have a couple other guys that have kind of emerged on linebacker before. So, and like even on the line thing, last year we drafted Jordan Morgan first round from Arizona. He didn't play a ton, but he developed. He's got a lot of the physical tools that you want to have at a tackle. So, Packers, they could really go anywhere if they want to.
And they also got Jacob Monk, the center from Duke, last year as well, I believe, which was I thought that was a good pick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, there's a guy every year like Shador. Was the guy in our draft that fell. I'm surprised that Jahad Campbell has fallen as much as he has. I get the Michael Williams discussion and how he wasn't the first edge rusher. I understand that, but I'm sure teams are salivating for Jahad Campbell. Maybe it's this next team. Who knows with them? They need some help everywhere defensively. What if it is the Vikings at 24, DJ?
Yeah. And I agree. If Jahad Campbell's still there, if you're the Vikings, you need help at the linebacker depth. So I think at this point you take Jahad Campbell because that's the best available player on the defense.
Okay. So it is Jahad.
Yeah, I would. If he's still there, why is he still there? So I'm the Vikings. I'm like, okay, let's go get the guy. Let's go add some linebacker depth. Our defense was not great last year. We needed to add a few more guys. And if you look at what they lost a lot of, it was definitely mostly defense, mostly the backfield. They do need a corner, but I do think there'll be a few good corners in the second round for them to fall back into.
Okay. So best available is what Minnesota's going for here at 24.
Best available defensive player, yes.
Absolutely.
The best available player on the board to me right now is Ibuka from Ohio State.
Okay. And he is 33 right now on the database, but he's pretty high up there right now on the draft board. Jahad Campbell going to Minnesota at 24, guys. Anything else you want to say about this pick?
Rich get richer on defensive line, Minnesota. They also added Jonathan Allen in free agency. They drafted Dallas Turner last year. The Vikings have a very good front seven, and if that is a pick, it gets even better. It's like Philadelphia a couple years ago, just beefing up that core. Took them to a couple of Super Bowls. They've won 2 of them. So, not the worst pick in the world, although maybe it's not the pick that Vikings fans want to see on paper with maybe bigger needs at places like safety or at offensive line.
Okay. So Jahad Campbell off the board at 24. We each have 2 picks left to go. We're down to the final 8 in the first round. It is now the 25th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. And on to a team that I think is one of the more disappointing teams, at least in my opinion, last season. A team that just couldn't win the big one. The Houston Texans are now on the clock, Zach. It's your pick.
We're looking at a team that forced 5 turnovers against the Detroit Lions and still lost a game last year. So do with that information what you will. But you know what? The Texans offseason overall has not been that bad. Here's what they did. They brought in a lot of help on the offensive line. 3 new faces up there. Cam Robinson, Trent Brown will be anchoring the tackle spots. You also have Laken Tomlinson in a guard. And Laken Tomlinson, if I remember correctly, he's not just a guard. He went to Duke, and he has a degree in medicine. The guy is very, very, very smart. So not bad to have that guy in your offensive line. They also brought in, on the defensive side of the ball, defensive tackle Sheldon Rankins, still a pretty good player. In the secondary, they brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who can play, and Ronald Darby can play. I believe they're both on the Eagles at the same time, too. So they probably have a bit of a rapport working with each other. And E.J. Speed also comes in from the Indianapolis Colts. more of a depth piece at linebacker, I believe, but still a guy that can play. As far as the losses go, Robert Woods, Stephon Diggs, both out the door. Diggs was injured for half of last year. Robert Woods, an older player, he's seen his better days for sure back in the Rams time. They also lost the likes of Case Keenum. Who cares? And they had some pieces on the defensive line depart as well, and Jerry Hughes and Mario Edwards, and also Devin White left at the linebacker spot. Biggest loss of that entire group, in my opinion, is Laramie Tunsil, the guard who was traded to Washington for a handful of draft picks, and that has already been addressed. As far as guys left on the board that you can maybe see the Texans taking, I think that they're going to end up going with a lineman of some sort, being an offensive or a defensive lineman. Both of those positions are needs. I think since they address the offensive line, you're going to rule out your tackles and your interior linemen. So Gray Zable's a pick that maybe Texas fans would like to see, the guy from North Dakota State, but I don't think they take him here just because there's bigger needs on the other side of the ball. That being said, Kenneth Grant's still on the board. Walter Nolan's still on the board. Both those guys with very good players. Grant from Michigan and Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. And I'm going to go with this is really a coin flip to me. I'm going to go with Walter Nolan here, just to create a bit of chaos. I enjoy it. You're a big fan of his tape. Kenneth Grant, yes, won a national championship, but he also wasn't the only guy on the defensive line doing stuff last season. So we're going to go with Nolan at the pick here for Houston.
Opinions win again. Sure. Well, I mean, hey, it's a coin flip between him and Grant. And honestly, any pick for them in the offensive line makes sense. Zach couldn't have said it better myself. I think it's a good pick.
So did Simmons go to Green Bay? I thought I heard Luther Burden.
Simmons with the Green Bay. Burden was wishful thinking on my part.
Okay. Oh, okay. Well,
Burden you could see, but it's not on this occasion. It was Josh Simmons.
I agree. Okay, well then.
Personally, I thought I was.
I'm going to pretend Josh Simmons isn't there on my board. I accidentally put Luther Burden there because that's what I thought I heard.
That's all.
Oh, well.
It's all right. All right. So anything else now that we've got the 25th pick chosen? It was Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. Anything else we want to say about that pick before we move on?
I like the pick personally. Beef up the Texans' defense. Absolutely. But don't be surprised if they go wide receiver here either. I mean, you lost a couple of good wide receivers. And remember, yes, you have Christian Kirk. Mm-hmm. But also remember, they have a wide receiver whose name is slipped my Tank Dell is still hurt. We don't know when he's coming back. And the wide receiver room's kind of small right now. So keep an eye on that. Don't be surprised if they go wide receiver, but Nolan is a vicious guy. This is the kind of guy you want on the defense with Will Anderson. And with the kind of defensive mindset that the Texans head coach has, I wouldn't be surprised with this pick at all, considering the beautiful things he did with Stan Fran's defense. And he has transformed this Houston Texan team. Despite the off year they had, he's transformed that team. He's done a great job.
I mentioned too in the receiver for Hughes and TJ. The guys are in there right now outside of Tank Dell, who is injured. It's basically Nico Collins and everybody else. They brought in Christian Kirk, as you mentioned, via trade with Jacksonville. They also signed Braxton Berrios as a free agent in that room. So we'll see if the Texans do add receiver depth. I think they will at some point. Maybe for them it's just a bit too soon to want to draft wide receiver because they've hit on a lot of these mid-round guys in the draft in the past.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, folks, I am making my second trade of the first round.
Oh, there you go. Finally.
We have a trade to announce. I've been thinking about it. The Rams are on the clock. Not so fast, my friend. Shout out to Lee Corso, who's retiring at the end of August. The Rams are trading with the team that is right behind them. The Baltimore Ravens will trade up one slot and be on the clock at 26.
I don't approve of this trade. I'm kidding.
It's been the story of the first round for you, Scout, in all honesty. Get what you pay for, son. So with the because I think if the Ravens see this guy on the board, and he's not Malachi Starks, but I think he's going to be a really good safety for them, opposite of maybe a hybrid guy. With the 26th pick in the 2025 NFL draft, I'm going to try to get his name right. The Ravens are going to select safety out of South Carolina, Nick Emenwari.
Beautiful pick. The Ravens would jump to get this because they do need more safety depth. I think they lost Marcus Williams, didn't they not?
They did.
Right?
Looking at the Ravens, Marcus Williams is gone. Trey White, not that he was there that much for them, but he's also gone. Secondary was the biggest. Now, yes, they did get Awuzie, but Awuzie's had a couple of rough seasons over there.
Awuzie gets burnt so many times. Don't trust that. He gets burnt.
So I do understand that they did fill a hypothetical need, but at the end of the day, Emenwari, a lot of people had going top 20 in this draft, even top 15 in some boards.
Yeah.
Some people had him over Starks. I think if Baltimore sees him, the Rams don't need a safety, and I was having a hard time figuring out who are they going to select. So instead, I've thrown that in Scout's direction here at 27 and given the Rams pick to him. So if there's nothing else anybody wants to say about Nick Emenwari or anything else they want to say about the Ravens, Scout, the floor is yours if you want to talk about 27 now.
I appreciate that. I'll tell you what, when you look at the draft, and I love the creativity from the trade. I really do. So props to you, Joey. I'm going to take a look at you're welcome. I'm going to take a look at, why are you laughing? I'm just trying to say something. When you look at the draft and you look at the Rams and you look at their needs, personally, I know, in my opinion, this may be a reach, and I'm going to stick with it. But in my opinion, you have a lot of good linemen, whether it's offense or defense, on the board right now. Yeah. I don't think the Rams are going to go for that right here. I think you just lost Cooper Kupp. You're bringing in an old Devontae Adams. I think that with the next pick, the Rams are going to take Emeka Egbuka. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong.
Yeah,
wide receiver from Ohio State. When I look at the remaining, the best available, it's all defense and a few offensive linemen. I don't know. In my mind, when I think of LA, I think wide receiver, and I think that's the pick.
How old is Devontae? Okay. Is he that old? Isn't he like 32?
I think he's still old.
Okay.
Here's the thing.
Devontae is 32 years old, guys. Born December 24th, 1992.
Oh, Christmas Eve. How about that?
Tough birthday, not gonna lie.
So.
Okay. Egbuka. All right. Interesting. Skill position. DJ, I know you were high on this pick.
Yeah, no, I like this pick. And the Ravens need it. They need receivers down the stretch. Bringing back Matthew Stafford, and he doesn't really have a lot of people to throw to. I mean, yeah, this is a perfect pick. Egbuka has a lot of experience under a championship team, as well as working with guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., and he also, we forget, but he was there with Garrett Wilson and them too. So he knows the depths. He understands what it's like to play with talented guys. And he's been the talented guy, and he took a step back as a veteran role last year. I think that's a great pick, in all honesty. I love that. I love that a lot.
I think a lot of people, myself included, forgot about Egbuka because of how good Jeremiah Smith was last year. And he's a guy that's still in that bottom first, top second conversation that some teams are really love to have in their building. He's going to come in there and become an instant contributor. Maybe not the receiver one, but I'd expect a guy like Egbuka to be a receiver 2, receiver 3 at a Rams team that has Devontae Adams and a bunch of other guys that are kind of fighting for targets.
Look, Puka, Devontae, and Egbuka. That's a great wide receiver lineup.
Yeah. I mean, best case scenario, he's the JSN of this draft and just fits right into that Rams offense. So, and hey, both from Ohio State, so can't go wrong there. So, Egbuka, gone. Luther Burden remains for now. We'll see how that occurs. With our next pick in this draft, we're up to 28. It's getting late in the first round, boys. And TJ, you're back on the clock. You've got the Detroit Lions, and boy, there's a lot of offensive and defensive linemen I'm sure Dan Campbell would love to get his hands on 28.
Oh, man. Look, there's a lot of defensive and offensive linemen he'd love to get his hands on, but not so fast. There's a trade.
Oh my!
No way.
There's a
A
team.
third?
There's a team. There's a team that really needs offensive line.
Oh boy!
Right?
Oh boy.
There's a team that really needs offensive line.
And
And
the
if
line?
they see this guy, if they see this guy is still there, you jump the gun and you draft a guy like this. Cleveland trades with the Detroit Lions. They trade in, give them the first, second round pick, and get Josh Simmons to help out on that offensive line.
Oh, Josh Simmons is gone, TJ.
Oh,
Josh
fudge.
Simmons is
That's
gone.
right. Okay, it's a good thing I didn't make that pick. Never mind. I was
Power of
waiting.
editing.
Okay, cool. Oh man, that was
Dang it! I gotta
Look
leave
at
that.
No,
Oh, man.
I guess we can leave it in. I don't know. Are you still making the trade,
Right.
TJ?
Yeah, I don't know. No. Actually, you know what? Oh, he's still there? No. I'll
for
keep
it.
Detroit with it. I'm sorry.
Hey.
I got to messed up. Did you already trade, Joey?
I did
Maybe
not, but I
trade
was just going to
back.
point out that Cleveland needs the quarterback, and Jackson Dart's still on the board. If you want to still go that route,
Yeah. I think do I really want to risk that?
Cleveland
when
would
they
be
need
dumb enough to do that.
Oh, no. Let's
No, but let's assume that
keep the
Cleveland's
Lions
smart in
here.
this situation.
No,
That's a
Cleveland's
good
the
move,
kind
Sal.
of team that would talk to the Lions and then do that kind of
You know-
thing where they're like, you know what, guys, you got it.
I'm going to be safe. I'm going to give the Lions let the Lions keep their pick and
Okay,
get Gray's Gable for the O line.
great.
See,
I
I
like
think
Gray's
that's a
Gable.
good pick.
Go with the safe pick. Go with the safe pick.
Okay,
I forgot Simmons went up already, so I didn't. In my mind, I didn't clear it because he's right there, but technically, he went to the Packers. So that's my fault. My fault. We'll put that on the.
got to clean this
The
whole
dumb
thing
hype
up
or
now.
whatever.
Last like 3 minutes.
Yeah, I
of this.
know.
You know, it's
Yeah,
easy
now
on
you
the
gotta clean it.
audio part, but man, imagine editing the video.
Oh man.
Yeah, sorry
That'd
about
be
that, DJ.
Oh.
That's it. The folks
Oh well,
watching at
that's
home,
fine.
hope
I
you
don't mind
enjoyed.
looking like-
Get your popcorn ready.
Hope you enjoy me looking like an idiot. Yeah.
It's getting late early here. It's
It happens to us,
9:50
Getting
right.
late early.
Yeah, they're an hour ahead of us over there on the East Coast, so
Oh,
we'll
is what
give
it
them
is.
past this time.
So let me ask you, TJ. So
It is
now that
late
you've
on the
now
hour.
that you picked Mr. Gray Sable, why him over the
Yeah.
likes of Tyler Booker or a couple other linemen?
Look, Gray Zabel has great arm strength. I think, kind of like Mike Green, he really showed himself in against D1 prospect. Well, not D1. Yeah, D1 prospects. In the Senior Bowl, and I really think when you look at his tape and the kind of depth that he brings to a team, and you're the Lions who need to be able to protect Jared Goff, Ray Zabel's your guy. If Josh Simmons isn't on the board, Ray's your guy. But Booker's a good O lineman too. But maybe they draft Josh Connerly. Maybe Gray Zabel falls off and they draft Josh Connerly. They can go any sort of O lineman here, but I think the safe pick is Zabel here. Yeah.
Gray Zabel out of North Dakota State goes to 28 to Detroit. Guys, anything else you want to add before we move on to our final set of picks? All right. Well, in that case, it's down to our final picks. We have one each remaining. And up next, Zach's on the clock with the team that he and TJ went to training camp a few years ago for, the Washington Commanders, on the clock at 29.
And that team we saw at training
there's
camp
so
a few
many
years ago is a far cry from the team we saw last year in Washington.
Yeah, they
What
haven't
is in
changed
the
their
water up there in Ashburn? Those guys have suddenly become a very, very good football team. Now they've lost a lot of guys, including Olamide Zacchaeus, who's contributor wide receiver, Jamison Crowder. De'Ami Brown was maybe the biggest loss on the offensive side of the ball. And a few other depth pieces walked out the door. Defensively, they lose guys like, let's see, Jeff Driscoll. I think he's a quarterback. I'm reading the wrong line here. Cleveland Farrell. That's kind of a spot starter for them. They picked up last offseason. He was okay. Benjamin St. Juste has been in and out of the lineup for them. Dante Fowler on the edge, another guy. Jeremy Chin went to the Vegas Raiders. So that's a loss that Washington maybe is going to miss a bit more than some of the others. But I think of Washington, when they had some of their better defensive seasons, they had a really great defensive line. I think of the days of Chase Young and Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. being up front for them and them not having to hold anything else. But that defensive line is able to hold teams to 16 points. They're able to win games that way and somehow sneak into the playoffs and give Tom Brady and the boys in Tampa a really good fight with Taylor Heineke as their quarterback. I remember that time back in the COVID year. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I think of that in the old Washington football team days of Washington having a really good defensive line, that being the one piece that felt like they really had a lot of turnover in the last few years. The rest of their team's fine. They've got guys in the secondary that can play. They traded for Marshall Lattimore last year. They've got a couple other guys in the linebacking core between Bobby Widener, who's a bit older, but he can still kind of command things, no pun intended, in the middle of the field there for them. And offensively, Jaden Daniels has really emerged as a real star in this league. He's been one of the better rookie quarterbacks we've seen in a very long time. I've been there with the Andrew Lucks and the RG3s and Russell Wilsons of the world as far as a rookie QB having a great year go. So good for Jaden Daniels on that. So with all that being said, the pick here for me is a defensive lineman. I think that is an easy pick for them to make because that's something that they need. And this is a good class for defensive linemen, especially this part of the draft. There's 2 or 3 guys sitting on the board right now. You're looking at James Pierce. You're looking at Kenneth Grant inside. You're looking at Donovan Eziarku from Boston College as well. So there's 3 guys that could be a potential Washington Commander at this pick. Of those guys, personally, I like James Pierce Jr. The few Tennessee games we see last year, he was very, very difficult to stop. Quarterbacks did not have a whole lot of success facing him when he came unblocked. And I think that James Pierce Jr. is going to be another great edge rusher for this Washington Commander team. And a division that's loaded with very good edge rushers like Mike Parsons and Kayvon Thibodeau is supposed to be. And, of course, all the guys down in Philly as well in their defensive line. So that's the one piece Washington, I think, really needs to fortify the defense. They've missed on some first-round picks in recent memory with the likes of Jamin Davis, among others. But I think that this will be a good pick for them to go ahead and bring in James Pierce. And his size is great, too. And he's a 4'4", 740 guy, but he's doing so at, a 6'5" height, 245 pounds. He's also got 32 and 3/4-inch arms, which I know talk about arm length may not be a big deal, but he's got a pretty wide wingspan there as well. So I think that this is a very good pick for Washington to make it 31 and James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee.
I love that pick so much. If James Pierce falls, like people think, you're Washington. Washington could not stop the ball to save their lives last year.
So
they were great
off the board. Yeah. No, they really were. So a good pick.
Yeah.
Good pick indeed. So 29 pick falls off the board. James Pierce Jr., the Tennessee guy, picks the Tennessee player. Who could have seen that coming? But Washington gets an edge rusher. They get James Pierce Jr. It's a really good pick, and I think they can't go wrong, especially with the talent that's available in the first round. These teams, again, Washington made it all the way to the NFC Championship game. I'm sure they're not going to complain no matter who they select. So, with that being said, if nobody's got anything else to say about the Washington Commanders and what they've done or what they want to see done this season, then we'll advance the final 3 picks. All right. Well, in that case, then it's my turn for my last pick, and well, as fate would have it, I have a division rival to end things here. I have the Buffalo Bills at number 30, and honestly, I could go here, and honestly, I think the right pick here. I'm gonna check the other 2 teams before I make a decision here.
Oh my gosh, you're doing the equivalent of
so Kansas City.
You're doing like screen cheating.
Offensive line. No. Okay.
Just remember that.
So Philly, I'm sure they're looking at this
for wide receiver Xavier Worthy, and look how that ended up for both sides.
I understand Luther Burden's still on the board, and maybe that makes sense for them. And I'm sure it's a scary thought to pair Josh Allen with a guy who's that athletic, but I think Buffalo needs to address the defensive side of the ball. Listen, they've had a lot of pieces go in the past couple years. Tre'Davious White isn't going to solve all their problems. They got Larry Ogunjobi, but he's suspended half the year. Dane Jackson, Joey Bosa. Yeah, congratulations. You got an edge rusher. But I think they need somebody opposite him, and they lost guys like Von Miller, who still produced even at his old age.
Yeah.
So I think this is a time where teams go best available, especially when you're in the position Buffalo is, of what can we do to beat Kansas City? Because that needs to be the goal for Buffalo next season. How do we beat Kansas City? In order to do that, there's a couple options here. My options are either this. it's either Kenneth Grant from Michigan or Maxwell Harrison from Kentucky.
Yes.
Because you need a replacement for Kyer Elam. This is a tough one for me. So with the 30th pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, I think looking at this, there's enough depth to where you can get away with it. I've got the Buffalo Bills selecting Kenneth Grant out of Michigan.
Okay.
I think it's best available. I'm seeing it. But that's a tough one. I think Buffalo could trade down. I think Buffalo could easily select Hairston or another corner. I think they could go other ways too. Luther Burden is the sexy pick, as one might say. But
absolutely.
I think there's a very, very interesting case for that. But I've got them going D-line, addressing that need, and they've got enough picks to where they can address a lot of their needs in the draft. So
that's like we can say too. You get to Mahomes, you make sure it's just time to throw, and the teams that have done that are the teams that have beaten them. Exhibit A was Denver and their backups, and also Philadelphia in the Super Bowl, lest we forget.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
And don't forget,
I guess Buffalo beat them early in the year, and it was a good game. But Buffalo's they for whatever reason cannot beat Kansas City. It seems like in the playoffs, and defensive line maybe helps them out a bit further in that department.
Never forget who wrote the blueprint on that, by the way. That was Tampa Bay in that Super Bowl 53, I believe it was.
Yeah.
55, I think.
Never forget.
55?
Never
forget.
forget.
The numbers are flying so by. Are we on Super Bowl 60 this year? Is that where we're on?
Yes, that's right. This year will be 60.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
gosh.
Or 59, right?
Jeez, man.
I don't know.
Oh, man. No, I think it is 59.
I think this year, yes,
Okay,
Philly
good.
won 58.
Yeah, I
So,
figured.
yeah. It'd be 59. 60.
I'm glad it's
Oh,
59
no.
and not 60. I can't take a 10-year anniversary. It's awful.
Oh, man.
Well, actually, no, it might be 60. So the Super Bowl 50 was after the 2015 season. Yeah, this might be 60 this year.
So it would have been
Fact
10
check
years
that one.
since Peyton
Let me look
retired?
at that.
Yeah,
Wow.
10 years since Peyton Manning retired.
Oh, wow. Damn.
Time flies. I believe it'll also be – well, no, because Brady will be gone for 3 years at that point. It's a wild time, but Buffalo – you know what the difference is between Super Bowl 1 and Super Bowl 60 for Buffalo? Nothing. They don't have any rings. So they need to find something. They need to beat Kansas City. They need to get to a Super Bowl. They need to win a Super Bowl. And as long as Josh Allen's their quarterback, they've got a window. And how do you continue leaving that window open? Getting a defensive lineman. So that's how we tie all this in as Zach looks up which Super Bowl we're on this year. Scout.
It was Super Bowl 60 this year. So, yes, 10 years since Peyton Manning retired, and Star Toilet had that one pick six, and Cam Newton didn't dive on the ball. Sorry, Scout.
Well, segue, Scout. It is your pick. And you got the Chiefs, so have fun with that.
Oh, I've already made up my mind who the Chiefs are going to take. So we're actually going special
I'm
teams.
scared.
We're taking a long snapper. Just kidding. Let's not do that.
Let's go.
Listen.
There's
you
one from
need-
Coastal. You getting him?
Let's go. But no, the one from West Virginia. Anyway, here's the
It's
thing
on my
about
board.
this. When you look at Kansas City, you need a replacement for your all-pro guard, Joe Tooney.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
need that.
I'm so mad he's still here. I'm so mad this guy's still here if you get him.
He's actually a 4-time All-Pro, 2-time first team, 2-time second team. But listen, if Tyler Booker is there, I'm taking him.
Man.
You need your Joe Tooney replacement.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Kansas City is taking Tyler Booker,
Yes.
the interior offensive lineman from Alabama.
And people are going to kick themselves after that and be like, how did he slide to Kansas City?
So every year that Kansas City and Philly both get the how did that guy go there pick?
He's going to be such a great fit for them, too.
Yeah, he is. He fits in well with what they do. I mean, Kansas City is a team that just needs athletic young linemen. They, as you mentioned, lost Joe Tooney to the Chicago Bears. That makes sense. It's one that a lot of people scratch their heads more because of the fact that he's still there than anything else. And the same is true of it with Gray Zabel being picked there. You know, it's like, how do you let the Chiefs get that guy of a player? But the nature of the beast is in the draft, you know, your team gets a great player. The other 32 teams also get a pretty great player. So it's part of the game, you see.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I was kind of shocked that he had lasted this long. When I thought I thought that he was going to be before Gray Zabel. That's just me.
Yeah.
But I think Kansas City is more than happy with this pick.
Mm-hmm. I thought TJ to that Detroit pick, I thought he was going to go there at 28. That's just me, though. That's fair. But TJ, speaking of teams that seemingly always have an amazing draft, you're rounding us home in the first draft with the team that won the Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Let's roll.
I think to finish it off, Philly's going to do what they've been drafting usually. It's been defensive players. I think you've got to address the losses that you did have on the D line, especially on the around the edge type of play. I think about that. I also think of inside linemen as well. I do think that's another thing the Eagles have to address. So between the two of them, in all honesty, it's tough. I'm still thinking. You know what? Though I think to round it out, I think we'll go. What? No. What were you saying? I think you go. I
I was just thinking. Here. I think I know who you're going. Oh.
I think I'm. Wait. You think?
I hope.
You thinking O lineman?
I was trying to decide who you were deciding between, but I think we're on a different wavelength. So I'll just go ahead. TJ.
I think I'm gonna go with the edge player, Donovan out of Boston College, to round it up.
I love it. This is my guy as a Raku from Boston College. He was there, he's a big reason why Boston College stayed competitive. But also, Scout, I interviewed him at ACC Media Day a couple years ago.
Yeah.
He's one of the last ones.
That's right, you did. That's right, you did.
He is.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did. And he's a really nice guy. And much like Christian Mahogany, who's in Detroit now and is killing it over there, Donovan Ezeraku was an Austin Boston College guy that I had a chance to interview. So if nothing else, I want to see him get drafted in the first round because that's my guy. So I appreciate TJ that you picked him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, that's round one.
Yeah, and contrary to popular belief, there will not be 6 more rounds.
Thank
So to round out this, we're going to do a quick draft recap. We're going to just go through it for those of you that may have skipped to the end, and more power to you because you have that ability. So, first pick, now that I can see it, Titans are getting Cam Ward. Second pick, we believe, I should say, that the Browns are getting Travis Hunter, corner/receiver from Colorado. Giants are getting Abdul Carter from Penn State. Patriots are getting Will Campbell from LSU. Jags getting Mason Grant from Michigan. Raiders getting Ashton Genty from Boise State. Jets are getting Armand Membu from Missouri. Panthers are getting Jalen Walker, edge rusher from Georgia. Saints are getting Will Johnson from Michigan and staying put at 9 and not trading anywhere. Kelvin Banks is going 10th to the Bears. Jahdae Barron's going 11th to the 49ers, corner from Texas. Our first trade is at 12. The Cowboys trade down with the Colts. The Colts get Tyler Warren at 12. The Cowboys get Tatora McMillan from Arizona at 14. The Dolphins get Malachi Starks in between the two at 13. Shamar Stewart goes 15 to the Falcons. Mike Green from Marshall goes 16 to the Cardinals. Michael Williams falls a little bit because of the injury. He goes to the Bengals at 17. Matthew Golden goes 18 to Texas. Colston Loveland goes 19 to the Bucs. Marion Hampton, the second running back off the board, to the Broncos at 20. And Shedeur Sanders falls to 21 in our draft to the Pittsburgh Steelers, so they will have a quarterback for day one. Derek Harmon to the Chargers at 22. Josh Simmons to the Packers at 23. Jahad Campbell to the Vikings at 24. Walter Nolan to the Texans at 25. The Ravens trade with the Rams and get Nick Emenwari, safety from South Carolina, while the Rams get another receiver in Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. The Lions get Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. The Commanders get James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee. The Bills get Kenneth Grant from Michigan. The Chiefs get Tyler Booker out of Alabama. And the Eagles get Donovan Ezeraku, edge rush from Boston College. And that's our first-round mock draft, which will be up on my Twitter, Joey Palermo 95, when this goes live. And we'll be so excited to cover that. Guys, any final thoughts on this first round and just anything in general you want to say?
This is a loaded defensive class, man. Also, Riley Klingman says, yo, what's up, guys, on Twitter.
I said, yo, back.
Yo. But I
Tell
think
him.
this.
Yo.
Expect him to listen to the full podcast.
I
So-
think it's going to be loaded defensively.
In all reality,
I think Maxwell
in all
Harrison
reality,
goes first
are there
round, though. I
gonna be
think,
more trades?
in all honesty,
Okay.
Are there any more trades, Scout?
No, what are you saying?
there's
TJ?
definitely going to be more.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, are we like, will there be more trades than what we presented?
I think yes.
Absolutely.
Because I think we're going to
Absolutely.
see a lot of late trades like the Rams and Ravens trade that I made. I think that's just one example. I think teams
I
are going
can
to
see
trade
the
a couple
Eagles
picks up or stuff they like. I think teams are going to trade up for Tyler Booker, low-key, because, I mean, the fact that he fell to the Chiefs at 31 is kind of crazy. But I think teams will trade for offensive linemen. Teams will trade for SEC fans. Teams will trade up for pretty much anybody that they think fits their draft board. And honestly, I think, TJ, you're going to start to talk about some of the picks that we didn't make. Jackson Dart is one player that didn't go. Maxwell Hairston from Kentucky is another guy I could think of. Who's going to be one of the guys at night one, by the way, Maxwell Hairston, betting on himself. Interesting point there. The third guy I think that's notable that is not in the first round is Luther Burden from Missouri. At the start of the year, he was considered to be the best receiver in the entire draft. And now we don't even have him. I believe we have like 3 or 4 receivers ahead of him in the first round. So I'll be interested to see. He's got all the tools it takes to be a special receiver in this league. So, yeah, I can see a lot of trades.
Yeah, that's true.
I'll give you guys my take on this one, and that is it's a great week to be the bettors or the casinos and the sports books in Las Vegas. They're going to make themselves a lot of money between Thursday and Saturday because the public and ourselves included are probably going to miss on half of these. So
Absolutely.
come back and listen to this one on Saturday, and then just see what, or even Friday, really, and just compare it, see how well we'll report with these things age, but. As the NFL drafts, anything can happen. I mean, we've had a few crazy drafts in recent memory. I remember the one in 2023, I guess, was all of our last years at Liberty when there was, all the crazy stuff that happened in that one. And even the year before that, as well in 2022, the 2 drafts that we were fortunate to cover live on the air as it happened. Saw some pretty incredible stuff go down. So we'll see if we get another good one this year or not.
It should be fun.
What is that? Joey, is that you typing, dog? You are an aggressive typer.
That's a loud typer, dude.
Question mark?
No, that's not a thank you.
I don't know. The draft is out. The draft is on Twitter. That's what I was trying to post.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
okay. All right. Okay. Well, then we should end the stream then. All right.
Well, hold on, real quick. Before we go out, I do have one question. We had, one of the main things within the draft is the quarterbacks. In my opinion, the first round talent of the quarterbacks is not up to par in years past. And
agreed.
With the exception,
I agree.
I think there's a legit world where, and I may be in the minority, I think there's a legit world that we see where Shedeur Sanders doesn't go 21. Maybe he goes farther. And that's not to speak to his talent either. I don't know. Is there a chance that Shedeur goes farther than Pittsburgh?
There is a chance. I think you go higher, a lot higher, go a lot lower. And that wouldn't be shocking. We've had this year could be a quarterback. You have a Kenny Pickett or a Tim Tebow or a guy like that kind of comes out of nowhere, is just suddenly a first round pick to a team like New Orleans or to a team like Pittsburgh or even Cleveland trading back in that maybe needs a quarterback or thinks they need a quarterback and reach for a guy like that. We'll see what happens, but if that happens, I think that maybe Will Howard or Jackson Dart are the 2 guys to look out for as your sneaky first-round quarterbacks that maybe shouldn't be there otherwise.
Okay.
And with regards to Pittsburgh and who they would select and what position they would select if they didn't take a quarterback, I think it will be very interesting to see who they select, because if it's on defense and specifically on the defensive line, given some of the players that I believe will be there by the time Pittsburgh selects, TJ Watts needs a contract. And that first-round pick could be very telling as to what direction they could go in.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. I think we nailed the first 6 picks. I think the 6 picks are obvious. First 6 picks are obvious. After that, it's going to be straight chaos. Straight chaos.
Yeah. In this case, our Our chaos is 2 trades. Our chaos is maybe some players that were above or below expectations. What do you think? There's a comment section on Spotify. There's a comment section everywhere that we're going to post this. So leave your voices. Let them be heard across with 3 days to go, less than 3 days to go now by the time we're finished with this recording. But that being said, we will conclude it with this. Folks, where can they find you on socials? We'll go top down from the audio or I guess the video recording. So TJ, where can they find you and where can they listen to you?
So I post on Spotify under the Sports Nerd. I've been a lot more consistent and active when I can be. So the Sports Nerd podcast, and I usually post new episodes on my Twitter, TJ_Wilkerson8, same handle on Instagram, and you can check me out with TJ Wilkerson on Facebook as well.
Okay. Shout out to him, by the way. He's been killing it with all his podcasts as of late. I've had a chance to listen to most of them. He's doing great work over there on the Sports Nerd. So make sure to leave a follow. Give him 5 stars while you're at it. No one else is not giving it 5 stars. So Palermo Podcast is going to be I'm not going to make a statement and say that I'm going to post as much as the Sports Nerd is. I am also a sports director for 8 radio stations, so I only have so much room to operate. Palermo Podcast will be on Spotify. Palermo Podcast will be on Twitter when these do go live more often. I might do some more like Stanley Cup reactions, might do some NBA preview stuff, might do some NFL preview stuff over the coming months. It really just depends on my schedule because I'm in the middle of high school baseball right now with district playoffs about to start. So it's a bit hectic for me. And also I'm doing it on my own. But I'll do these when I can. Might even do a draft reaction night 1 because I'm going to be doing it with the guy on the bottom here. Scout, where can they find you?
All right. Well, you can find me on Twitter or X as at the Real Joe Jr. You can also find me on my Instagram at almost the same, not quite, just Real Joe Jr. as well. You can also listen to me every Monday through Thursday from 12:30 to 1 p.m. for Sports Talk on WIZS, 1450 AM, 100.1 FM, and everywhere all around the world at WIZS.com. Also, check me out on Facebook. Just hit Scout Hughes in the search bar.
Hey, he ain't hard to find. So find him on Facebook and give him a follow while you're at it. He's doing some great work over there in North Kakalaki. Zach, where can they find you?
Thank you.
Oh, well, for you guys that want to venture to the dark corner of the internet, which hosts my social media, good luck. I don't really put a whole lot on there these days. I only put anything on X in over a year. Instagram, I go on there occasionally, but don't really put anything there either. Don't have Facebook, and then I'm not giving out the other ones because, well, just can't do that. But if for some reason you like to follow me on Instagram or either of those other places, my Instagram handle is at Zach Thomas Wheeler. Of course, I have an actual name that I don't go by on the radio or on podcasts. You can also find me on X or Twitter at The Thomas Takes, all lowercase, and there you will see a whole bunch of nothing. But you can also check out some of the news coverage they'll be a part of here with our friends over at the Stonecom family of stations here in Cookeville, Tennessee, covering the Upper Cumberland region, a handful of counties as well at UC or the UCNow.com. We'll be putting some news up there. We're getting a bunch of stories done a week. I'll be adding myself into the fold of those here over the next few days and weeks. So be sure to check us out there. It's probably where we'll be the most active. And should the Thomas Takes podcast resume, you guys will be able to hear about that too. So I'll be on these guys' podcasts all the time as well. Don't get me wrong. I'll actually have time to do that now that I'm not getting up at 5 in the morning and going to bed at 8 p.m. and whatnot anymore. Although it was fun, Minnesota, but I'm lucky to have my life back to a more regular sleep schedule. So, of course, very excited about what is to come, of course, in life, in sports, and in who knows what else. But, of course, we'll see how that all plays out in due time.
Keep on the radio dials. Who's to say that Zach and I won't share a radio dial again soon? We'll see what happens.
Maybe this fall.
Amen.
Maybe.
Oh, let's go. I would love that.
Stay tuned. That's all I'm saying. And on that note, on that little intrigue, we're going to go ahead and sign off here. It's been about 2.5 hours. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Your support means the world to not just everybody else, but to me, to TJ, to Scout, to Zach, to everybody. You couldn't do it without you guys. Tune in to the Palermo Podcast. Tune in to Sports Nerd. Tune in to North Carolina. Tune in to everywhere in the Upper Cumberland. Tune in to the NFL Draft, which is just a couple nights away. It's hard to believe it's here once again, and it's hard to believe that with each year, it feels like that we're getting a little bit older, but we're trying to be a little bit wiser anyway. On that note, it's going to do it here for the Palermo Podcast. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Have a great night. Have a great day whenever you're watching this. God bless.